Oh, hello. Okay. So, hello everyone. Hey guys. Um, so I know Raj through I think for quite some time now through Thai mainly, and he asked me to stop by, give you a bit of a pitch about my story, and hopefully I can convince a lot more of you to leave your job and quit or do something and take the risk. No. Um, so I came from India, standard, did my mechanical engineering from MNIT in Motilal Nehru in Allahabad, then came for my master's in computer science, and then took my first job. That was in the field of the internet. So a small company, the main thing I learned during that phase was working in with other people. And again, I think any can be an entrepreneur and nowadays from college into starting a company, which is great. My wife says, well, it prevents it. It doesn't give them, they can basically think without being bound by the corporate boundaries. And I think she's right in her way, but I think that just working for a few years in a corporation that helps you build some people skills, which you'll need as you run and manage your company. So anyway, back to my story. I was working at this internet company that grew. It got acquired by Verio, which went public. And as it became public, we grew from 20 to I think close to 1,000 people. Got some good stock options, which helped me to think that maybe I can do something. But what really triggered it was what Raj was mentioning earlier, the frustration. You know, I was about 30, 32 that time. I felt that other people, I was not getting recognition. I was an engineer. And just like a lot of engineers, you know, the problem with engineers is we wear our unhappiness on our face. You go into the meeting and everyone can tell that you're miserable and unhappy. And you know, why are we unhappy? It's we always feel that we are not being recognized. Well, if you smile a bit more, if you interact a bit more, I think you'll get recognized a lot more also. But anyway, just like everyone else, I was miserable and unhappy. I don't know why, because everything was working out fine. But some other people around me, my friends got promoted and I didn't. And so I was like, you know, dang this, let me start my own company. So that's how I started. The cushion of having the IPO had options, so I had a small cushion. And actually, more importantly, my wife again was very instrumental. She supported me. The last thing you want is to start a company, go home, and then have a spouse who tells you, why did you do this? You know, so that's because things are going to be tough. Um, so I started my first company in the field of network management software. Um, Raised $5 million. This was in the year 2001 from VCs, raised $5 million from VCs. And everyone's strategy was very clear. The crash of 2000 had just happened. So we were raising money after the crash. And we were going to raise, and as the market went up, we were going to build our software and we were going to go along with it. So any one of you who's followed stocks knows that the crash happened in 2000, but the market was the lowest in 2003. So when our product was ready and ready to launch, there was nobody to buy the product. And of course, the first mistake, and you know, the VC should have caught this, but anyway, in hindsight, before the first line of code was written, we had a CEO. I hired a CEO because I thought I'm good at in the company, but we had a lot of C's. And needless to say, we ran out of money in 2003. We were supposed to sell We had 3 or 4 customers, but certainly not enough. Now, that's another interesting point. When you come up with the business plan on that spreadsheet, how many of you have done a business plan before? Oh, you have. That spreadsheet where you say your sales projections, your other projections, you show it to a VC and they say, this is not steep enough. So you go back and you change one number, right? They don't know what number you change. You just change it. It's a setup, guys. You got to stick to your gut. You don't know what you're going to sell. But anyway, so you change a few numbers, you change the trajectory, and you get funded. Well, that's what happened to me too. So anyway, we were funded 2003, no money. We had about 10 customers, but certainly not enough to. We tried to raise more money. Those days were brutal. We didn't get any money. Sorry? Fidelia? That is Fidelia. Okay. Yes, that is Fidelia. Sorry. And could not raise more money, no funding, nothing of that sort. So the VCs called up and said, because since you're the founder, they didn't tell the CEO, they told me that since you're the founder, and the largest shareholder, individual shareholder, please file for bankruptcy. And it was like 5 o'clock on a Thursday or something. So I had no idea how to file for bankruptcy, but so luckily I called up. I always had this one person I would talk to who had done this kind of stuff before, a mentor, and you need to have a mentor and someone who's a little bit okay to run on the edge, because that person gave me some very good advice. He said, look, the cool thing is all these folks on the board, they've asked you to file for bankruptcy, so they're going to resign. And so I said, what do you mean they're going to resign? He said, they're going to resign, they're going to leave you holding the bag, and then you're supposed to go ahead and file for bankruptcy. But you can continue running the company if you have your own money and you can continue to run it. Great idea. I thought about it. I had to, of course, let go of, we were about 40 people that time. I had to get rid of, I kept about 7 to 8 people. And kept the 7 to 8 people, terminated everyone else, went and got a home equity loan and put that into the company and continued to run it. But that was, the first lesson I mentioned was having too many CXOs in the company. Well, this was the second lesson. I had hired a CEO because I thought that, look, I can run the company, and the CEO in turn hired a VP of sales who then hired a lot of other sales guys. And it was easy. I said, you know what, I am a CTO, technical guy. I will build the product and let someone else sell it. Let everyone do what they're good at. Well, lesson number 1, there are plenty of people who can build the product. If you can't sell it yourself, there's no point starting a company. So don't try. A lot of times I go to my friends in India and they say, we'll build the product, why don't you sell it? I said, no. I'll build the product, you sell it, because that's the hard part. So anyway, 6, 7 of us, the beauty of internet, website, no one knows how big you really are. So everyone thought we were 40 people before, and we never told anyone we were less. So we continued running on behind this web interface, and we continued to sell and grow the company. And that is all based on this, now the size was really tiny. The product was very self-sustaining, luckily. So if you're building a software product, make sure it's more software, less services. And, interestingly, the company grew. It grew to, again, we were close to 100 customers. We were completely self-sufficient. All the money I had put in, I could manage to take it out. And during one of these times, I used to give a periodic update to the old shareholders, not board anymore. And they were all, of course, happy that, I wasn't asking them for money. I was just giving them an update. And finally, I met a company over here, the old McAfee, who we were trying to sell the software to them, but they ended up buying the company. So that was a good exit. Well, it was a moderate exit. That was my first exit. A lot of effort and things like that, but it taught me a lot. And after the acquisition, at least the shareholders made some money. I made a little bit of money, and I went back into this larger company now, again, Network General. Network General, again, a big corporate company. I couldn't fit in there. It was always this little bit of politics here, politics there, couldn't fit into that. So 2 years, had a contract, and I couldn't wait to leave and started my own company again. And this time it was Zarion. I did talk to a few VCs for the second venture, and everyone was telling me, hey, you will be able to raise money. That's no problem. You've done it before, et cetera, et cetera. Again, but the problem was it was 2008, 2009. So I started a company when there was, it was all again a downturn in the market. So I said, okay, let me just put my own money in and let me start this and see how far this goes. So luckily I had some cushion from the first company, and that allowed me to do it. But a lot of times you cannot. You have to take funding, so that's important. And I started this second company, but again, the things I had learned from the first one were very relevant. This time, I did not hire a VP of sales. I hired a number of directors of sales, a number of sales account managers, senior managers, but I was on point. I believe that in a small company, when you all start a company, forget about your accent, how thick your accent is, how bad your accent is. You keep hearing about all the football stars who need to go out and be sales and account managers. Forget all that. As an entrepreneur, as the founder, you are the best salesperson. And don't forget that. So no matter how gawky you look, how awkward you look, how bad your accent is, do not worry about that. If you have a good product and you're passionate about it, your customers will buy it. And always keep that in mind. Don't be shy. Get over your inhibitions. Get in front of the customer, because you have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to sell. Don't think that you can hide behind just making the product and just hiding behind it. You have to go out there and sell it. So that is I think the second major part that you need to focus on. Over here, this second company did well. We did grow pretty well. And a lot of people used to approach me, a lot of VCs used to approach me once we were growing, because we were self-sufficient. We had about 200 customers at this point, and very, very, very good customers. Again, we used to hide behind the web. Nobody knows how big we are. All these forms on the web, I honestly used to lie about how big we were, because if I said we were 20 people, no one would buy from us. So I said we are 40 people. So everyone thought we are 40 people. So no one said they're full-time or part-time. I said I just added all the part-timers in. So it did well. And nobody knew till the end how big we really were. It was a very good exit. We were not looking to sell. When VCs would come to us, I would actually tell them that we're not ready for you yet, and when we are ready, we'll actually contact you. So it's a way, you're in the valley, you don't want to get these folks upset. So, but that way, at least, a lot of times people say, well, I'll build a company and then somebody will acquire it. And you cannot really start a company looking to sell it. There are some models, like a spin-in model, where a larger company will give you money and want you to build a product for them, which they'll buy in if you're successful. But other than that, don't think you're going to start a company so you'll sell it. Think about starting a company and running it, and you'll think about the fact that you have to sustain it and build a sustainable model. Only then will somebody come and say, hey, if they want to buy you, they'll buy you because you say, I don't need you, right? And that's very important also. So I think that's this second company. I had an exit. I did not take any venture funding. We were doing close to $5 million of recurring revenue, and highly profitable. And at that point, we had somebody approach us and buy us out, and it worked out very well. All the employees worked out very well for them. It worked out well for me, of course, and a number of others. So I think that's my second story. I had to stay with them again for 2 years in a larger enterprise which had 600 employees. I hate it. It's tough. More so because you always feel that you can do things better, you can do things differently. But such is life. I mean, you have to, as an entrepreneur, that's what you do. But in the second company, I learned a lot about cash flow. So a lot of times, the spreadsheets that you do, they don't account for cash flow. Everybody wants to get their money on time, so you have to pay them on time, but nobody pays you on time. Your customers never do. And I was at one point, I remember I had to go and borrow $20,000 from someone. I had accounts receivables of, I think, close to $400,000, but I had to borrow $20,000 to meet payroll. So cash flow is very important. And I think what kept me going and really helped me a lot is I learned, we were using QuickBooks. I learned some accounting, some QuickBooks, so I could generate a report on my own or just see how things are behaving over there. So it's fairly important, for you to get a handle on finances, especially if you're running your own thing. The hiring was tough. I used to always meet these folks from one of my friends is from Google, and she couldn't stop talking about the good food over there and all the good life over there. So we said, okay, let us go ahead. We'll also start offering good snacks to our employees. I don't know if they appreciated it. Not initially, they didn't seem to care. But afterwards, after the acquisition, turns out the larger company did not offer snacks and food and all. So that's when they said, how could Vikas offer that? And how come we guys cannot? How come this bigger company cannot? And I always believe in this. Look, if you really think about it, the biggest expense for me and for all of you is going to be payroll, right? So if I'm paying somebody $80,000, $100,000, and I spend $200 or $50 for them on snacks and food and lunches and freebies, right? It's nothing. It's very, very trivial. And that's what Google is also doing. People are so excited about their food, but it's really, if you think about it, it's how much are they paying you, and then how much is the food costing them? Very, very little. But the perk is tremendous. So keep these things in mind that, ultimately your payroll is here. All these other little pieces are all the way down. So giving those, offering those are very important because they help you in team building. We used to give out free raffle tickets every month. We would have something. We'd give out free raffle tickets or tickets to, we hold a small raffle and the employees give out 2 or 4 tickets to some baseball game or some nice concert that's going on, because people don't mind spending that, or they have a hard time spending that much money. But giving away 2 tickets like that, it's really, really nothing, but means a lot to them. So try to take all these pieces to really build a team, because that's what you really need is a team that binds together. And you might not be able to get the best guys out there, but if people are passionate in your company, it's really matters a lot. It really helps a lot, and that's what you need. People who care about the company. Measure everything. A lot of times you can't, as a CEO of a young startup, you cannot depend on, well, this marketing is taking care of marketing and sales is taking care of sales and engineering will come up with engineering. It's easy for all of these people now to come up with dashboards. And when I say dashboard, a weekly meeting where you can actually track that if marketing says that they have generated 40 leads, where are those 40 leads making their way through the sales pipeline? Right? Talk to the sales guys, track them, because it's not like you have hundreds of leads and things like that all over the place. You have a smaller number. Try and see how effective all these different pieces are, because we used to measure it. You need to know, if you go to a trade show, are those leads meaningful? Saying that I got 50 business cards in a trade show, how many of those closed? Nothing. Is there any measurable benefit from it? Well, somebody better have an answer. You can measure marketing. You can track everything that you're doing with your money. You can measure sales, of course, tools like Salesforce and things like that. You can track engineering. Tools like Jira, make sure all of you might have heard of that or used it. Things like those, they allow you to track support calls. The problem kept shifting. As you start the company, the problem is software development, and at least in our case, was how do you develop the product, right? You get the product built, first problem, okay. Now it moves to sales. And if you're successful in sales, guess what the problem becomes? It becomes support, right? And support, back to the same problem. Now, again, the customers demand more features. You're back to the cycle of more sales. So the problem does shift as the company evolves and matures. So keep that in mind, that you're also going to run into the same concerns as the company evolves. I talked about being positive. right? And that's very important. When I was in the corporate world, you probably see that also. There's always this gang outside the door who's smoking the cigarette. And I remember I used to hang out with them just to smoke a cigarette for whatever reason, hangover from old days. And there was always this bitching session going on. They're always sitting there and they're always complaining about the boss, this or that, or something or the other. And it just seemed like such a negative thing. It's like, okay, let's get together and let's, bash somebody inside. So what I started doing is, when I started the company, I would actually go and join the smoking session just so that I could listen to the bitching sessions. And then I would try to, make them think positively. Because that's very important. When somebody would say, well, so-and-so, that group is doing this, that group is doing that, you have to encourage the groups to talk to each other and be open about it. Because you cannot have this whole dissent within such a small group who's always arguing, has issues with each other. So very important. All the factors I talk about for a good team building in a small company, very, very important. And lastly, the most important thing, you must take the risk. A lot of people don't start a company for fear of failure. But until you take the risk, there is no way for you to find out if you're going to succeed or not. So if any of you have an idea, you're thinking you're going to do something, I know that you need some cushion, whether you raise money or at least your spouse is working, something that gives you an advantage. But you have to take the risk. And I came from a fairly simple background. I managed to start a company. There are lots of people in the Valley who came from very simple backgrounds and just took that one step of starting a company. And if you fail once, fail twice, there were some failures in my life too, which I've not talked about for lack of time. But certainly keep that in mind. And that's how I want to end this. Raj?
Questions? Yeah. Just repeat the question.
Sure.
So when you talk about building a cushion and then starting the company, so the cushion, how long should it last? How many months?
So I shouldn't. A lot depends on. So the question is that build a cushion before starting a company. How long should the cushion last? And there are different ways to answer it. I know a lot of people who moonlight and have continued with their other job and do something on the side before starting something. You have to give yourself enough runway to the point where you think either you can draw a full salary. So let's say if in my case, I did raise money the first time, right? Now, when I raised money the first time, I did not really require a cushion because I was getting a salary from the VC, from the money that I raised, right? The second time, though, when I started the company, I did not go ahead and raise funding. And at that point, I was able to sustain myself without a salary for some time. In my case, at least, it was a year. So the cushion is really your comfort level as to where you think you are in your, are you looking to buy a house? Have you bought a house? So that's something that you have to think about. And if you're thinking of starting a company, a lot of times you can do it. You can do it after hours, start the company, and then try to raise funding. But once you get funding at that point, at least you get a salary from that. Did I answer that correctly, Raj? Yeah.
So you were mentioning before you guys were considering filing for bankruptcy that you had a team of 40, VP of sales, CMO, but only 3 or 4 customers. And then afterwards, you trimmed the team down, and next thing you know, there's 100 customers. What was that due to? Was there a change in strategy? Did you guys pivot, or what did you guys do differently?
So, so the question, yeah, at least you said the question. So that's a good point. And remember, the first thing I learned was that's where I mentioned about sales, right? The biggest difference was that we were initially, the team that we had was actually not as the sales team that we had was not able to articulate and sell the product that we, as you know, or I, or our, the other people, the engineering people in the company, for example, could go out and sell. And I think a lot of that was attributed to because of us going out and selling and talking about the product and defending, because we were talking to customers who saw where we could defend everything about the product. And earlier we were just letting the sales team do it, and that is a big mistake. 2004 we grew to 100 customers. By then the market had also come up in 2004, 2005. That helped us also, but the biggest change was just us selling as opposed to just having a team selling for us. Sure.
When you said you decided to start a company, you didn't say you had any idea. It felt like you had more of a desire of starting something, and idea followed. At least that's what I got. Would you talk a little on what is the idea versus motivation, and how did you get inspiration for your ideas?
Sure. So actually, the question is that did I have the idea first, or did I start the company and then the idea followed? And the answer is that I actually had an idea for quite some time, but there was no reason, there was no trigger for me to jump in and take that risk and start on that idea, right? So a lot of you might have ideas on different things, but everyone is a little nervous about, hey, I've got this nice cushy job, should I leave it and jump on this idea? So I started it because, like I said, I was frustrated at that point, and I said, okay, I have this idea, let me follow up on it, let me follow through on it. Sure.
So looks like you didn't have any co-founder, so you're just alone.
I did not have a co-founder or co-founders, but I did have a team of engineers, if you will, or people who joined me from my workplace.
How difficult was that to manage without a co-founder?
A co-founder is, the idea was, at that point, the idea was mine. I did give option and stock to a number of people in the company. But a co-founder is usually if a bunch of people get together and come up with an idea, then there is, or if you're missing certain parts. But in my situation, at least in both cases, I didn't have I had the idea and I needed some people. And I, of course, reached back to the people who I had worked with earlier. So I did give them stock. I don't know if you want to call them co-founders, but certainly not the same level of stock as a co-founder would get. Does that answer your question?
Sure. How do you work around with the legal stuff? Do you hire a lawyer, or do you advise people?
Good point. So actually, the question is, how did we work around legal issues? Do we hire a lawyer, or how do we do it? So yes, lawyers are expensive, and there is a network of people at least in the Valley, who are very good at low cost, at helping you. A number of these folks, like lawyers, even accountants, they'll do something at very low cost and take some stock in exchange for that. That being said, whenever you get a contract, first thing I used to do, even till the very end, is I used to read through the contracts myself, right? And the reason being that after a while, you get pretty good at it. So you save, if I give it to the attorney for him to find all the faults and then come back, it's costing me money. So I would read the contract. Over time, you start figuring out some missing pieces all the time, just like anything else. And you could at least catch those before you send it off to the lawyer, and you can advise the lawyer that, I think this part is missing and all that. So certainly I would encourage you that, you start reading these contracts. But we didn't hire, we just used to use attorneys. We didn't have anybody on staff as such. And that's how we did our legal stuff.
I had a question on just the funding aspect, because you mentioned the first company you managed to get funding, $5 million from the VC.
Right.
How does that, or actually, I guess the two questions was, one, did you have just pitched the idea, or did you have some kind of prototype in mind before you pitched them? And then secondly was, how do you work out the ownership structure at that point when
When you raise funding.
Yeah, when you raise money with your VC.
So there is I mean, it's a fairly, I guess, well-known method when it comes to a cap structure when you raise funding. When you, have you gone over that, Raj, with the folks yet? No, no, okay. So the way a lot of this works is if, it's really about how much money you can raise and at what valuation. That's what it comes down to. So if you come in and say that, I have an idea, I go and pitch it to him, and he's a VC, and he says, okay, I like your idea, you have a team of people, you seem to be from the space, so I value your idea at $10 million. Let me give you $2 million, and I'll take 20% of the company, for example, right? Something like that. Or then I go say, okay, fine. So he's given me a term sheet. I go to some other VC and say, look, here's my idea. And he says, I really like you. I like your idea. I'll value your company at at 20 million, and I'll give you $4 million for 20% of the company or something like that, right? So you try but he might have much more harsher terms further down that if I don't meet these goals, then so and so will happen. He might not have those. So I have to make a decision on that, right? But it's a fairly, I think Raj will go over that maybe further on, but that's a fairly standard thing.
Yeah, basically in November we teach business skills for entrepreneurs.
Okay, that's next.
And one of the things that we go through is understanding term sheets.
Okay, all right.
So it's November, December.
From your, whether it was your first or the second venture, from the time you ventured in, from the idea perspective, there is a period of gestation, and that's when frustration also comes up. How do you keep yourself positively engaged when you're dealing with those initial challenges while building, whether it is your first or the second venture?
Sure. So the question was that after I've started the company, there is a period of gestation, and during that period, how do you keep yourself motivated during that period? Actually, that's much easier because during that initial phase, you're usually building the product. You're building whatever you have, your ideas, all that stuff, the whole reason why you started the company, all of that is, you're really building that in the initial time. So those are still much more, that part is easier, if you will, to go through because you're already heads down, you're very focused, you're trying to get things, to come to, to bear fruit or to build the product. The problem is actually after that. Once you have built the product and you have to find the first few customers, okay, that's where the frustration sets in. And there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of effort. So building the product, you know what you want to do. But the problem is you don't know if you can actually sell it, right? So selling is the frustrating part, and that's the hard part. And my theory on this is very simple. If I sell to one customer, it's probably a fluke. If I sell to 2 customers, maybe I have good luck. But if I sell to 3 customers, I have a product and I have a business. If 3 people are willing to pay money for my product, I can actually sell it. At that point, it becomes a question about execution, right? So it's really about sales and getting the first 1, 2, 3 customers. That is the most exciting part. Today, if somebody comes to me and says, be a CEO of my company, if the person has 4, 5, 6 customers, and paying customers, not freebies, I would say that this company actually has a very good chance of succeeding. There are other factors that come in, how much, whether they can actually get the proper runway and things like that. But other than that, it's definitely a good choice. Sure.
So how did you build differentiation for your product, given that network management has been there since the 90s, and then there are companies like Juniper and Cisco which are fully into network management?
Absolutely. Good question. Good question. So the question is, this is a very crowded space. My first company was in network monitoring, and we were up against HP OpenView, Concord, InfoVista. There were like 20 companies in that area, right? And the second company was in the cloud management space. That was still a little easier with the cloud word, but the first one certainly was hard. If you have a lot of competition, so it means the market is huge to begin with, right? This was something which I'd written some open source a long time ago, and there was a lot of people who were using it, downloading it. So I knew that well, I knew that area well, and I knew from the feedback of the customers that this is the area where the other products are lacking, right? So it was actually a very small differentiation for the first one. It was really ease of use and scalability. So the idea was, when I was at Vario, we did not have a very we ourselves could not find and buy a very scalable product. So the idea was to build an easy to use, scalable product, right? And that's what gave me the differentiation. But coming back to a more generic point of view, so if the market is, firstly, if somebody comes to me and say, or somebody comes to you and says, who's your competition? And you say, oh, nobody, bad answer. You better, I mean, unless you're the only genius who's designed or invented, come up with something, you better have competition, right? And it's always cooler to be this number two guy, because the first vendor or first company is your competition, is sitting there and establishing the market. They're doing all the marketing, they're doing everything else. And once they've got everything established, you tag along on their words and say, we do it too. So it's actually better to be number two and number three in the market. It's harder to be number one, obviously. In this, you have to trailblaze, do a lot of things. But interestingly, everyone seems to come up with the same idea again, at the same time. So you'll always have some competition. And if you have very few competitors, that also usually means that the market is much smaller. One of the questions when you try to go and raise funding is, how big is your market? Right, total addressable market and things like that. And that's very important for you to figure out. Who can you sell to? And marketing and sales might be at some other stage, but if you're selling to an enterprise and you say that your product is worth $300,000-$400,000, well, the cool thing is maybe the market is only the Fortune 500, right? And you know who those Fortune 500 customers are. You go and buy the list and you start selling to them. But the companies that have become really big are those who have managed to crack the mid-market and the smaller market. If you look at MySQL, everyone uses or at some stage has heard of MySQL, right? Or if you look at a lot of these other companies that have become really successful, Skype, eBay, all these guys, they cracked the whole nut about how do you sell to the smaller customers. Because to sell to the Fortune 500, I have the names. To sell to the Fortune 10,000, who are these nameless people? Where do they hang out? I don't know. And it's very expensive to market to them, right? So figuring out who your market is, how big your market is, that is very important when you start a company. And more importantly, how you're going to get to them. You keep hearing about SAP. I don't know if anyone here works at SAP, but SAP always sold to the big global 1,000. They have been trying for the longest time to come downstream, right? Very difficult for them to do it.
So like, let's say you have a product and ease of use is one of your key things, and I think that's why you can move downstream. In your opinion, is the key challenge will be whether you can figure out how to market to them, or are there other challenges you think that potentially a company that was initially thinking enterprise, if they go downstream, they got to worry about a bunch of those stuff as well?
So the question is that if let's say ease of use is something which allows you to go downstream, so is the challenge figuring out how to sell to them, or is it a bigger challenge to worry about the bigger guys coming downstream? Am I right?
Or anything else that you've
I've seen this time.
that makes it hard to go from an enterprise product down to
The biggest challenge is, how do you get to them? How do you sell to them? Or how do you market to them? So that was expensive. That is the biggest challenge. How do you ultimately get and sell to the mid-market? Very tough. Right?
Hey, a quick question, more curiosity. When the VC asked you to take the company into bankruptcy,
Did
did you end up recapitalizing the company?
So the question Raj asked is that when the VCs asked me to file for bankruptcy, did I, did we restructure the company and did I end up in a better situation? The answer is no. I was too scared to go back to them. So I thought they were going to get on my case and say, why haven't you filed for bankruptcy yet? So I didn't talk to them. And I didn't have the nerve to actually go and say, the board had dissolved, but they were still the majority shareholders and they had the shareholder rights. So to restructure the company would have been tough because they were saying, okay, sell it, we'll take, for $500,000, at least we'll get 10 cents on the dollar for us. And that's what they had told me to do, is to sell it, get $500,000, we'll take our 10 cents on the dollar, and that is it. And my problem was, if I went back to them, say recap, they would say, give me $500,000. I didn't have that money.
But they did not ask you to provide monthly or quarterly financial reports.
They didn't ask me to provide anything, at that point. So yes, they were, yes, well, they were good, but they should have helped me when I needed help. But that's a lot of times. But no, that's okay. But yes, so that is how in a lot of cases, depending on the situation, you can go back and you can ask that recap the company. I'll own more of the company and so on. I did not do it in that case because, like I said, I was just nervous about doing what I was doing. And so that's why not. That's why not.
You laid off a lot of people, right? How do you manage the logistics? Because there's a lot of legal complications and civil package, a lot of stuff is involved, right? Like CSO, CXO, whatever, right? There's a lot of contractual obligations with the company.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage the logistics?
So it is. Firstly, we only had a contract with the CEO. That is the only, the others were not on a contract as such. They're on a regular thing. And if the company is going to file for bankruptcy, there is really nothing you can do. There's very little money left on it. So you have to pay off VCs will actually send you money to pay off the obligations for payroll. Okay, so you can meet the payroll as of that day, but that's all the money you have. And it's a tough job. But you have to do it, and that's what we had to do. But there was the only CEO was the only person, and in this case, he was like, well, this is the situation, we can do it. And I think there was something built in which, if he hadn't achieved certain goals, then it was easier to let the person go.
I think you're an amazing manager plus entrepreneur. I think you did both, and that's so fantastic.
Thanks, Raj.
But in reality, I think an entrepreneur has to be a very good manager too, in terms of doing everything that you talked about. I mean, you did the sales, team, compensation, watching out for the company culture, putting in the metrics for every department.
Right.
I mean, you did it all. I mean, that's the important message that I'm getting from Vikas's story, which is you can't just stay pigeonholed. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to be a jack of all trades during the day, and at night you do your own specialty. But during the day, you are really solving business problems in marketing, sales, HR, engineering.
Absolutely.
Every problem under the sun. If comes to your desk.
Correct. It is good to be involved. It is important to be involved. I think as the company grows, you have to let these functions go away. That's fine. Then you hire people who are more responsible for this. But you cannot, in a small company, you cannot have the chance of a misstep. I just spoke to somebody today who was talking about how they hired a VP of sales, and that in a smallish company. And the VP of sales hired a sales team, but he was not going and meeting the customers. And 6 months down the road, a lot of money spent, a lot of time wasted. And they had to, get rid of the person. And the CEO was there, founder CEO, but he, again, this is the board member telling me, that the founder CEO actually was relying on the VP of sales to do the sales. And that is the same mistake I had made in the first company.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you have to come back. It is your everything. The buck stops with you. And also remember, it's very lonely at the top because every decision you make, there's no right or wrong. There's absolutely no right or wrong. And I wish you could open a book and say, if this, then do this. There isn't. So CEOs, owners, whatever, you have to go ahead and make decisions. And they could be the wrong decision, but you have to make the decision. There is no right and there is no wrong. You find today on Wall Street, you find so many CEOs, oh, they ran the company to the ground, this happened, that happened. Well, the person made the best decision he or she could at that, given the circumstances, right? So it's lonely. Find a mentor, find a friend, talk to them a lot. I used to. And that's very important for you because there's going to be tough times, tough issues, a lot of things.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raj.
We got another exciting story from Dr. Shyam Das, who's not only an entrepreneur for 25 years, but he's got a new company going, which keeps him healthy like this.
I'll do Thank you, Raj. And when I was entering in, my wife tells me I come here only to eat, but thank you for giving me some job. And when I was coming in, I saw on the board what Raj called it as a joke, but it is a real question. How did you start your company? And I think maybe I will talk extempore on that. I started the company because I was fired. Not because you told the answer to the boss and boss fired you, but I was fired. I did not have anything to fall back on. And actually, it was very difficult because if in the daytime when I was at home, if anybody comes in, I had to go and hide somewhere in the home so that nobody sees that I'm out of job. And that was the situation. And of course, Suhas Patil, as you know, was the first president of Thai. He gave me job. And when the day I went to join his company, a week before, I got an idea of something to do. And then I asked him, can I take 3 months? I felt that in 3 months, I will be able to decide, or I will get the funding to start a company. Therefore, I said, I have a great idea. Can I take 3 months off from you? And he said, sure. And then I thought that is the naivety I'm trying to tell you, that I felt that 3 months is good enough time to make the decision whether I'm going for the company or not. It took 1.5 years for me to get my first seed type funding. Anyway, but one thing that I want to tell you is, first company I started with, eventually I got my first $1 million check, multi-million dollar, but it's small, a very small amount, in which Raj was a key person. And I never thought about any customer. I never saw any customer. It got VC funded and it got acquired. Okay, therefore the company was related to read-write hash, most sophisticated technology that I can imagine. And that's what we were making, hard disk drive read-write heads. I was a very successful technologist in Digital Equipment Corporation. And I became world known in the field of read-write heads, especially magnetoresistive heads, which is a high-density heads. And that was my, being smart technologist is a big problem to be a entrepreneur also. My biggest problem was, since I knew I can do everything myself, for 4 years, I didn't hire even one person. And I used to do all the work by myself because I knew I can do it. And I would hire few consultants to do the work. But it's a hardware job. I had a machine which was a sputtering machine, photolithographic machine, and all those things, equipment. And I was running everything, one employee person. And I ran for 4 years. And 4 years ran out. Of course, I built the technology, but it took me 4 years. And that is the biggest mistake, because that time, since I thought I was super technologist, I will do everything, which I did, but there was no business sense. 4 years is humongous time for a startup. I would have made several hundred millions of dollars at that time if I had used VC funding. I had made the team. I had co-founders. I didn't do anything. And that was one thing that I can tell you. But before I started my company, one thing I want to also share with you is I worked for 12 years at digital in Massachusetts. And my boss, I worked only for one boss there. And my boss used to say, he used to be a very simple guy, but he used to get sometimes frustrated. But one time he told me, Shyam, you have all the ingredients to be a successful entrepreneur. I did not know what entrepreneur means. And therefore, when I came here in West Coast, after 12 years working in Digital Equipment Corporation, my another non-Indian guy who was the president, my boss, he was also saying the same thing. You have all the ingredients of being a successful entrepreneur. And I didn't even understand then. And I really understood it after I finished my first company. And what I learned from that is the perseverance. I never gave up for anything. What I did in my first company, I can do only once in my lifetime. I cannot repeat that. Because even though it took me 4 years, but it was impossible thing to make. I sometimes worry, get surprised. How did I do it? But I know I did it. And therefore, that I can do only once in my lifetime. Anyway, therefore, the one thing message I want to give you, my experience is what all these two non-Indian, my bosses, I had only 2 bosses in USA, and all these bosses said independently that I had all the ingredients of successful entrepreneur, and that was my perseverance. I never give up once I start. Therefore, let me just leave it there. And but one thing you heard that he took the home equity loan to run his first company. I want to tell you, which my wife will not do it again, but she cooperated with me to sell my home and start the company. The difference was he funded the company, he paid the salary to the employees. I did not have any employee. Therefore, I did not have to pay salary. However, I had 5-member family to run. I did not have any salary, any savings. Therefore, I sold the home, my own home. And
that's how I ran my family and started a company. Okay, therefore there is a lot of sacrifice people have to do in that. There are many stories which you can understand in 4 years period, I can tell you, but we don't have time for that. The next two companies that I started, it actually, all the two companies' idea came because we were, Raj and I are hiking, but used to be hiking buddy. I don't know why he gave up on that. Anyway, then when we were hiking, that's when I got these ideas and started next two companies. And the first company, as I said, I never saw any customer. I never sold anything to any customer. Second company when I started, which was related to software, I ran the company for 10 years only by sales. That's when I really understood the value of making a company. Making a company was not the first company where I was super technologist. I built a read-write hash, most impossible thing to build, and got it working and then got acquired. The real thing is if you make something you can sell to somebody. That's where, and that I learned in my second company where I ran it for 10 years only by selling to that. And you heard also the best salesperson is you, not anybody else. Therefore, I did not have any sales team. I did all the sales by myself. One example possibly Raj might like me to share with you is, Lennar. I used to make software related to not this software and services I used to do. Therefore, I would take builder like big home builders like KB Homes, Lennar, Pulte, and all those things. And they were my customers. Therefore, I'll take their plans and make the home on the computer so that they can see everything. Nowadays, you can see all these, but all the views when you sell the home. But when the things are in the plan, you don't know how the house will look like. When they make the building, when they build the home, model home, they find that the stair is this much higher than the floor. And then they have to remodel it again. But what we used to do is we used to create all the, take the plan and create the home and calculate all the materials will be required in building that home. Therefore, they became our customers. Therefore, let me share the thing that he always thinks that is a great, but which also I think is a great idea to sell the thing is, by the way, as he said, Dr. Das, therefore I use doctor as to my advantage because I will call the president of the company, each big company like Pulte, KB, Lennar, all these have a regional offices, and each office has its own president. And getting to calling president is very difficult thing because secretary will not let you call. Therefore, what I'll do is, which I didn't lie, I did say the truth. I said, Dr. Das can I speak to the president's name? And then say, who is this? I say, this is Dr. Das calling. And I don't tell him that I'm an MD or PhD. Therefore, they will get me to the president. And I'll talk to the president and ask him if he can give me some time. And that's how I reached to the Lennar's president. And Lennar's president he was very impressed with the work that I was proposing. Then he called me that my corporate, the whole Lennar's CIO is coming. Can you come and give him presentation? And he said, okay, he will give you only 10 minutes. That's fine. And when I went to talk to him, he gave me 2 hours. And then he says, we have all the president that they had in USA. We have a president's get together in Miami is a head office. Therefore, why don't you come and present there? And I knew all these, every president had to recite a poem called Little Red Hen. And Little Red Hen is about a 36 to 40 inches lines poem, non-rhyming, very difficult to memorize, but it had a great message. Message was that it was the little hen worked as an entrepreneur, and there was a big fat hen who never did anything, and that how the little hen, red hen, could get the worm, but the big fat hen couldn't eat whole night. Okay, that's the whole story around the poem. And every president had to recite in presence of the CEO. And the CEO was there, Lennar CEO, and Lennar, all the presidents. And what I did is I memorized that whole poem. And then they gave me 10 minutes there. And I said, before I use my 10 minutes, if you guys don't mind, I will try to recite the Little Red Hen. And they got surprised that I can do that. And I recited whole 40 lines poem. And everybody gave me a standing ovation. CEO came and gave me lapel here, the Lennar lapel. And that made all the president to know Shyam Das. Okay, therefore now, thank you. But now I will call any president. I don't call anybody else. I only call president. I say, this Shyam Das. They will take they will invite me to Texas, Arizona, and all these places they will invite. And I started doing very good. And therefore, that is the sales thing that I learned. And you can be the best salesperson then because you have emotion with that. You started something. And by the way, I wanted to tell you, you don't have to be expert in the technology as when you start the company. I mean, you can be, but in my case, what I realized, my first company was because I was very highly successful technologist, and I used to think that technology is everything. That is how I used to think. When I started the second company, I experienced that the sales is everything. That is it, you know. And both companies, first company I started because of need. I did not have a job. Second company also I started not because of my need. I had enough. First thing I did is I paid off my mortgage and all those things, took care myself. Therefore, I thought I can send all my children to the best school they want to go. Therefore, I don't have to worry about it. And we'll worry about later things. Therefore, I had that capability. But the point is that when I sometimes get out of track, therefore I just lost my train of thought I was trying to tell you. But anyway, I'll tell you a little more as I go along. And anyway, therefore, what I was trying to tell you, my family pushed me that I have to start my company. This first time, they didn't want me to start a company. Now they want me to start a company. And then I said, well, let me retire. They didn't want me to retire. All the 4 members of the family pushed me to start a company. Therefore, then I said, okay, at that time, 99, it was a dot-com era. And my first company was all hardware related. And I knew how difficult it is. Therefore, I didn't want to start a hardware company. Therefore, I wanted to start a software. And obvious answer was .com. And my children and my wife used to make fun of me. A person who doesn't know how to answer email, how can he start internet company? And as a matter of fact, that is the truth. I didn't, even though I have PhD, but I wasn't too much computer savvy. Therefore, I didn't pay attention on that. And I started a software company. Therefore, you don't have to be expert. But one thing I learned from my first company is I don't want to be technologist, because that was the drawback in my first company, because I was super technology. Therefore, when I hired the people, whenever there was, many times temptation came, oh, I can solve this problem. But I would say, no, you guys have to work it out. I don't know anything about it, even though I could answer that. But many times some temptation comes, oh, why can't you do like this? I would like to tell him like that, but I again resisted myself. No, I don't want to interfere in their work. You pay price for that, because in my first company, even if consultant couldn't do anything, I would go and do myself. Therefore, it is very difficult if you work with a team and everything you do by yourself, it becomes very difficult. Therefore, the second company I started with, because of Raj, because he had a Selectica, you have heard, and it was a configuration system there. And what I was trying to persuade him, okay, let me tell you the reason how I started thinking in that way. When I was growing up, the custom tailored shirt or pant was the cheapest one. And only rich people could afford the ready-made clothes. And now you cannot get, if I buy my shirt, hands up to here, button doesn't fit. Therefore, I thought, use his configurator and try to get a internet system that everybody can. I had different ideas. You can come to a place and you get your measurement and put on the internet, and then it comes to our website. We'll ask the other tailors to bid it, and then I will ask, once it is you pay, then I will ask them to build and deliver custom made. That's what the thing that I wanted to do, but he didn't want to do anything. But I thought that I was going to start an internet company. Therefore, I thought that I didn't want to make, I thought that I didn't want to make a company which is just .com company, like pet.com, van.com, because I wanted to build a company which has an asset built into it. Therefore, I I was very impressed with MapQuest in those days, because they have a database. Therefore, even if everything goes away, they have the database, asset built into it. Therefore, what I thought is, why shouldn't I start, after he didn't want to become, tailor, shirt tailor. Therefore, I decided that I will build a database of all the homes in the United States. And anybody can write their address, and that home will come in. You get all the measurement, you get everything, and then you can drag, and we also develop the drag and drop the furniture, whether it fits or not fit. Therefore, that's what I wanted to do. Therefore, I got what was the drawback in my first company. I learned from that. I didn't want to repeat that. Therefore, I built a team and I got VC funding. And VC wanted me to hire, in those days, what, a $2 million per person was the rate. If you have 50 people, it could sell into 2 million at the rate of 2 million per. That's how the valuation was. Therefore, he wanted me by 2000 September, I have to have minimum 50 people. And of course, I increased up to 30 people, but they were not very happy. But if I did that, then I would have been out of business completely right away. And okay, the reason is I resisted. I said, listen, only one thing I promised you. I took not enough money. They wanted to give me a lot of money, but I say only I need so much money. And I need money to only to evaluate the technology and test the market. I said, I don't need 50 people or 100 people to do that. Let me evaluate the technology and test the market. And they were very upset. But anyway, by the time 2000, when the dot-com bubble started bursting, we needed to raise our second round. And we couldn't raise the money, and they wouldn't put the money. Now, I would have been completely wiped off, and I didn't know what to do after that. But since I resisted it, I could survive through that. And I told VC wanted me to dissolve the company and whatever money was left to distribute among the investors. I said, no, I'm going to buy you. Therefore, I bought the VC 10 cents to $1, like, I bought it. And then I ran the company for next 10 years by sales. And one of the example of the sales I gave you. Therefore, now, the second company also, a third company also, I started with Raj because we do hiking. And by the way, if you know, we both have walked more than 10,000 to 15,000 miles together. Yeah, we walked that many miles. And in that time, we have enough time. Actually, when we are running up the hill, we cannot even breathe. Okay, when we run, only when we come down, we talk a lot, and therefore we learn from each other in that. And then third company also started through that hike, as if you remember, yeah. And then now what I do is I teach people how to become healthy and fit, okay? And this is the first company, as you saw, I never saw any customer. Second company I ran only because, for 10 years, only because I could sell to the customer. That's where I understood the value of the sales. Third company, before I started revenues. Therefore, by the way, there are 7 presidents of Silicon Valley TI. 4 of them have learned from me. Therefore, you can see that, yeah. And anyway, now, as you know, that my hiking buddy loved yoga, and he's a real yogi, I can tell you. And therefore, he spends time with yoga, and I used to be a little bit frustrated because he quit hiking because of yoga. Therefore, I had little different opinion. I used to say I wouldn't compare my technology or my technique of being healthy with yoga. I would not, always. And as he has seen how many times I debated about it, okay? But I'm trying to tell you how you, if you are open-minded, if you think it differently, how the things are different. Therefore, he is recently, I said, when he came back from teaching from India, and I said, let's go to walk. And then he'll say, no, nowadays I'm doing hot Pilates. I say, what is hot Pilates? I say, you should come. And I thought that it is, then I started talking to him. Instead of being opposing view of the yoga, against yoga, I tried to see, let me understand what he is doing. Therefore, I started trying to understand. And then, well, by the way, I have taught more than 100 people, and people lost about 100 pounds, 90 pounds, sorry. Naren lost 90 pounds. If any of you have seen Naren Bakshi, he used to be like this, and now he's like me. That's the type of difference I can make, you know. And the way that it is done, you sit on the chair and breathe with me. And you will sweat profusely and you'll lose weight, because have you ever thought what happens to fat molecule? How do you lose weight? How do you lose fat? Have you ever thought? Anybody can answer this? Huh?
Metabolism.
But what happens to that molecule? It's a conservation law. What happens to that? What? Huh? Heat. Heat is energy, but what happens? Carbon is carbon. Oxygen, oxygen. Hydrogen, hydrogen. What happened to those? Huh? Perspirate. That is one way to think. But if you do the detailed calculation, 84% goes as CO2. All the weight, if you lost 1 pound of weight, 84% goes as a CO2. Only 16% goes as H2O. Okay? Therefore, you can say it is only 16%, whether it goes through poo or any other ways or sweat or anything, but only 16% goes as H2O. 84% goes as CO2. Therefore, if you breathe enough oxygen, you can oxidize those fat molecules and you lose. And you can see the examples. And if any of you have seen me eating, you know how much I eat. And look, 72 years old man doesn't have that enough metabolism, and still I can survive and with that. Anyway, therefore now going back to his yoga thing, therefore when I learned, then he said one more thing which really attracted me. He said, why don't you become a member of this yoga club? There are 5 different techniques or something, like Bikram yoga, hot Pilates, Vinyasa yoga, and all those things, you know. There are 5 different kinds. And he said, you can experience all those. And I said, oh, that is really great. Then I am a scientist. I was trained as a scientist. Therefore, I collect data in everything. Therefore, I said, I will collect data in all these things. Therefore, I went for 1 month. I collected data in all different systems that they have. And then I sent the email to the owner of the yoga studio. And I said, this is, and then I also sent my technique of breathing This is why my technique of breathing, this is your system, including Bikram yoga and other. And if you, just simple example I can give you, over 11 calorie per minute I used to hold, cool, warm up, high intensity, cool down, including that all these things is in 1 hour. And therefore it is a slow, high, and low. Therefore, on the average, in my technique, I burn over 11 calories per minute. And same thing, and okay, when Bikram yoga they heat very high, 105, and put the humidity 40%, and therefore you perspire a lot, and in that situation, Bikram could do only 5 calories per minute. And hot Pilates did 6 calories per minute. Therefore, I showed the graph and sent it to her. She invited. I'm trying to see how to discover customers. Therefore, this was not in my radar system. Before that, I was teaching all the individuals. But that is not, as in his language, what do you say, sellable, repeatable, and scalable, right? Is that right?
Yes, scalable, repeatable, profitable.
Profitable, okay, profitable. Therefore, I have my profit already because I'm selling to all these people. Therefore, can it be scalable? Can it be repeatable? Repeatable, do I have my system? Yes, it is repeatable. Can it be scalable? How do I make it scalable? If I teach people here, few people, it is not a scalable company. It is not a $1 billion company. How do you make it scalable? Therefore, that is what, see, being good friend like him is a great asset. Therefore, he took me to yoga studio, and I did that and created the chart for 1 month and sent it to the owner. Owner saw that and said, let's meet together. And I went and I did the demo. Demo means first class, I don't ask anybody to write anything, sign anything. But if you are still interested, then you sign the agreement and then I'll do with you. Therefore, I did that with her, and she told me she wants to be my star student. If the owner wants to be star student, that means we'll see what happens. Therefore, that is one way. Other way that I tried is I started also giving talks because I studied medicine by myself for 5 years. All the textbook that MDs study. And I studied not like MD, but I studied as a PhD scientist. Therefore, I understand scientifically possibly more than what MDs. MDs knows medicines related. The MDs know how to surgery. If you go there, they'll say, okay, I can cut your belly and then fix it. But do without doing anything like that. That's where I come in. Therefore, I give talk to Palo Alto Medical. I'm thankful to him that he came to attend the class, talk in Stanford Medical School and other places. But those are, and they referred some customers from that. But that's not scalable, still scalable. What is scalable if his yoga place owner subscribes my thing into her place? And you know what happens? Then I can franchise it the way that Bikram, I've studied all these business models. Bikram has a very good franchise model. Therefore, I can do like Bikram, but it is better than that. Other place that I did is just like going to Stanford or Palo Alto Medical, I also contacted NASA. And I told them that if you, let's say, if they go to Mars, Mars travel time is about 6 months. And if they don't do physical, even in space station, every astronaut have to do 2 hours physical exercise. For that, they carry treadmill, bicycle, and weights. Imagine if you are going to Mars, then the weight of these equipment, how many equipment can you put? And even if you put one, it is very expensive to carry all the way to the Mars. Therefore, I tell them, if you learn my technique, you will get rebuilding of muscle, rebuilding of bone, all the muscles that you will be able to use. Why didn't you take my technique? Therefore, I have been talking to the exercise physiologist in NASA Ames here. And finally, after 3-4 meetings, she invited me today to teach her. Just today morning, I taught her, and she is going to sign non-disclosure agreement, and she is going to learn from me. But she did tell me one thing, that NASA is very slow in adapting anything. Therefore, don't build too much hope right now. But I'm very excited about it. And her job is to push the limit in every physical exercise. Therefore, that's how I discover. But these things is like a tusk of an elephant, Palo Alto Medical, Stanford, or NASA, that I cannot build a scalable business. A scalable business is the way that Raj introduced me to this yoga studio. And if that becomes successful, then it is repeatable, it is scalable. Any other questions that you guys want to know? Because I didn't want to take too much time. Oh.
Any questions for Shyam?
How do we enroll into your program?
Say again?
How do you enroll?
Oh. Enroll is, you actually, is he here? No. No, you're one of the students. One person from his previous class came. No, he's not here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He came, he got very excited, and he learned from me, and he dropped his belly. Now he's back. I saw other day, he is back again. Therefore, he said he will come back again to me. Therefore, yeah, just if you are interested, just send me an email, shyamcdas@gmail.com. shyamcdas@gmail.com. And it is not only looking fit and good, like people have the blood test before and after, all the blood profile gets better, and sleep apnea got better, and all those things, a lot of things that, all this, as I told you, I'm a scientist. Therefore, I believe the numbers. If you don't make the numbers biased, numbers don't lie. Thank you. Oh, somebody has question.
I kind of have maybe a quick question about when you're talking about your second venture. You're talking about how you were trying to, like, it was kind of new on the software side for you, so you're as familiar with the technology. I'm sure, although you probably were I'm sure you were like undercutting yourself there. But what was it like building the technology team there? Because it sounded like you were selling a lot more.
Okay, it was not enterprise type technology. What I did is I knew who I have to get it. Therefore, I got those engineers, and again, the friendship worked out very well. He had Selectica division in Pune, And the way that I did is I bypassed a lot of software headache. Therefore, what I would take is see, all the builders have a paper plan. Therefore, what we'll do is take the paper plan and send it to India. And I started, he had an office in Pune. I used his resources, contacts, and then started my company in Pune. Therefore, I will hire all the architects and software engineers in Pune and then scan the data and send it to them and recreate the data on the computer and then use all the software. Yes, there were some software we did proprietary, which we built by ourselves by hiring the engineers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Okay, so I think if there is one lesson that several. Okay, so kind of bringing everything back to the BMC, because I think what you saw from Vikas's and see, none of these guys knew anything about the BMC when they started the company. They just jumped in. And traditionally, that's how most entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley work, right? They just jump in. They know a little bit about something where they feel that there's a customer need, or they know some technology that other people don't know, or they get fired or whatever. But essentially, that's how a lot of companies used to get started. But I think what has happened right now is that between all the research and effort that Stanford University has done, people at Steve Blank who started teaching entrepreneurship, there was effort to find a more systematic way. And you can see that, Shyam has been at his new company for at least 3 years, right, Shyam? So probably more like 4 or 5 years. 5 years. And so, yeah. So the thing is that you can see that entrepreneurs are struggling to find the scalable, repeatable, profitable business model because they cannot map the value proposition to the customer segment properly, right? You can see what Shyamdas is struggling with, right? And when you look at, and even now he feels that he's got an angle that he may be able to break into the yoga market, where there's tons of people who go there just to reduce weight, and that's a perfect target market. He just needs to figure out how to get in and become a viable vendor into that customer segment. If you look at Vikas's companies, the key lessons, all the things that he talked about, I could completely relate to, because I've had to do the same thing, right? Hiring, getting the right, knowing when to hire the VP of sales, making mistakes of hiring CEOs before the right time, or ending up with the wrong CEO even in a mature company like Opti, we ended up with the wrong CEO and paid a very heavy price because of that. So a lot of basic managerial business decisions sometimes make the difference between a successful outcome and an outcome that doesn't succeed. I think just to push Ty a little bit, I think this is probably the best resource that you have access to, because there's so many people who have been through all the challenges that you're going to run through. And, there is a mentoring program here. There's a way to, if you really want some information, you may have to pester the staff here, but you can one way or the other, or through some other charter members or whatever, get to the right person and get there. I think if I think about it, for Selectica, our funding came through TIE, my first customers came through TIE, my engineers came from TIE. A lot of things could be leveraged because you've got connected into one network. And this is one very good network. There's lots of networks that you can be part of, and you should be a part of a lot of networks, because that's where you can get all the resources for any aspect of your business, right? Anyway, so this is something to keep in mind. And the other things that I want to cover before we take our break, I know we are taking a little bit longer this time, is ultimately we want to end up where we are ready to write a business plan. So once you really understand your BMC, business model, now you got to convert it into the equivalent of a real company. A business plan is the equivalent of a real company that you put down, your spreadsheets, your description of the value proposition, the customer segments, the competition, all of that you already got there in the BMC. But now you're going to suck all of that and you're going to put it into this business plan. And some of you saying, send me an email saying, what's in a standard business plan? So, you can go through SlideShare. I recommend everybody be registered onto SlideShare. It's probably got 250,000 presentations on just about every topic under the sun from all kinds of companies. For some reason, people just take the presentation and put it on SlideShare. And it's available. You can just download it on any topic, do a search, and get it. And so this is one of the ones that I got for business plan. If you go to Sequoia's website, you'll see pretty much the same thing. But essentially, what problem you're going to solve, which is what's your value proposition, and the customer need that is associated with it. Then the market, as you scale, figure out how broad the market is, what are the segments that are really going to sink in with it. The team that you're going to form in order to put the solution together. On the left-hand side, we talked about the infrastructure that will come together. The technology and solution, that's again on all the left-hand side stuff in the BMC. The customers and revenue model. So this thing connects your customer segments to the revenue box at the bottom, right? So since you've got your BMC done, you should see the relationship, what pricing, how fast they're going to buy, whether it's SaaS model, whether it's license model, whatever it is. What your go-to-market strategy is, the channels, the distribution channels, how you're going to sell, all of that is there. And then your competition, and then you get into the financials, which is your cost of making the stuff, your profitability, and then, the 3-year milestones that you're going to hit. So pretty much your BMC, once you've done it and thought through it properly and your team and all of you sync up on the BMC, you're ready to get to, getting your business plan done. And in the business plan, we, last week talked about customer discovery. So the next thing that you do after you've figured out who your customer is, you got to validate. You've got to be sure that this customer can be converted into a business, into somebody who's going to buy the stuff. And as an entrepreneur, what you heard from Vikas is you can't really depend on hired guns till you yourself know how to sell. The entrepreneur needs to know how to sell, and no matter how expensive and smart and experienced director or VP of sales you get, you have to actually end up holding his hand in the transaction. And you'll find that the good thing about hiring an experienced sales guy is that he's got all the tools of the trade done. He's like an expert carpenter. He knows, you know, everything about how to make appointments, how to follow up, you know, how to, you know, get more information, how to build his network, how to, you know, navigate through the, and these are things that, you know, also require time and effort, etc. And those are the tools of the trade that the VP of sales or a director of sales or an experienced sales guy has, but he does not understand your product. Yeah, let's shut that off. Yeah. So, but he does not understand your product and solution and technology. And you, as the entrepreneur, have to actually go through the process of selling. In the beginning, you won't be able to hire those sales guys. Maybe you hire one of them, because I think it's always good to hire at least one guy just to understand what selling is all about. And, you know, don't make him your VP of sales. I think that's what he did. He used to hire a lot of directors of sales for the second company. Because the minute you hire somebody as a VP of sales, they got too much ego into it. And because of that, you know, they try to bring in their own people they worked with for 20 years. And, you know, they become office people rather than, you know, back carrying sales guy, right? So you hire this trained, experienced sales guy, and there's a ton of them in the marketplace at any given point in time, and you use them for their selling skills, but not to sell what you got. You have to basically buddy up with them, and between the two of you, you know, you make the ultimate team, because you know the product, you have the passion, you're the CEO, you can make any decision you want. The customer is going to trust you, and the sales guy or the experienced sales guy can teach you how to sell. So by doing that, you end up actually with a case study of what works and what doesn't work, and what are the steps, and you can document it. Now you're in the process, now you're ready to scale up. Once you've had 2 or 3 successes under your belt, now you're ready to sell. So basically, as soon as the customer discovery portion is done, we go into the customer validation, where in phase 1, we do the get ready to sell activities, which means all the marketing collateral, the product positioning, sales marketing material, the hiring of a sales closer, you know, the person who knows how to, you know, after he's convinced the customer, or after you've convinced the customer, there is still a process to actually get a PO. You know, there are different departments that are responsible for it. The CIO or the director or the CEO has said, yes, I want to do it. But unless you got somebody who can chase the PO, you're going to be waiting a long time, because your competition will probably pick up the PO. Because the CEO will never say that he's the only guy I want to buy it from. He'll say, yes, we need that particular product. But if the competition has a good sales guy, he will take that and he will figure out how to position his product to the buyer and take the PO away from you. Anyway, so hiring of a sales closer, creating the distribution channel plan, refining the sales roadmap, all of these activities have to be done. So you take your BMC, you're validated using customer discovery. Now you want to put together everything you need so that you can translate it into a business plan, right? So the first thing you got to do is get ready to sell. A lot of collateral has to be brought together, all right? The second one is getting out of the building and actually selling. And, you know, some people will say that, you know, if you don't have the product, how can you sell? But you heard from AGK. He started his company by actually getting a PO from a customer, right? So you can actually sell on your idea, on your collateral, and like, as again, Vikas said, these days, your website, your iPhone or Android app, etc., can represent you. And so essentially, important thing is to really figure out, whether people are willing to give you a PO if you offered something like this, right? So that's really what you're struggling to figure out. Will you get a PO if you offered this with this capability, with this feature set, with this time frame for delivery, with this kind of support plan, with this kind of features and functions? Will they buy that? So, and once you do that and you hit the road, might be a couple of weeks, might be a couple of months, might even be a couple of years actually. You have to keep hitting the road, because you'll find that, this kind of customer did not work. This kind of customer did not work. This kind of market segment did not work. So and you're repositioning your product, you're pivoting your product, redefining, is it a high-end product, mid-range product, low-end product? Is it a consumer product? All of that will depend on who will finally give you the PO. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter that you got a great idea. Finally, it's all that matters is getting that PO, because that PO defines the usefulness and the value of your product, right? So phase 2, you hit the road for as long as necessary, using all the collateral we talked about to figure out, where is the business? Where is the business that's going to allow me to create a company, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is now you've got everything together. The good thing is that there's a lot of people in the industry who understand, how big the market is for this particular need, etc. So you're not going to be the expert on that right off the bat. So you basically get face time in front of senior people at corporate at companies. You can go to industry analyst companies. You can go to trade shows, conferences, but you got to figure out, how big is this company and potential and all that stuff, right? And so once all of that is done, you go to phase 4, which is to now do a full-fledged analysis of of all the data that you've collected, and you make your decision about going ahead. So okay, so let me expand this a little bit. Shoot, okay. Hang on. Okay, so anyway, you guys got the slides, okay? So I'll just read it. So essentially, you take all the data that you've got, figure out how it all fits together in your BMC, and then go into a brainstorming room. So create a room, lock yourself up with all the key people in your organization or your team, with your advisors, mentors, everybody else, and then just go back and forth and try to question whether what you got is going to fly or not. Because if it's going to fly, everybody is going to make some big decisions about quitting their jobs, mortgaging their houses, all kinds of things, selling their house, And I tell everybody that good ideas always come at the wrong time. So it's just like that. So, for example, when Opti, the first company, came along, my second son had just been born, 6 months back. I just bought a house. I was mortgaged out, and we didn't have any money. We could not raise any VC money, and so we were not going to get a salary. And after working for 10, 15 years, had $50,000 in the bank, uh, and we had to live on that. And so, and my wife gave up her job for the second son, right? So essentially, that's when we started Opti. Had to basically take the jump. And the great thing is that, once you take the jump, you'll figure out how to swim. So basically, that's the decision that you're going to make when you're ready to write your business plan and go for funding and so on. Because the number one thing that investors are looking for is your passion and your commitment to this particular idea. I mean, they'll ask you all the right questions, but they don't really know the right answers. What they are looking at is just the people. The best VCs actually invest on people rather than the product idea, because they know that the best people who are impassioned, persevering type, committed to the idea, will figure a way out. And but the thing is that, since you are committing a lot of your safety and security, you go through this process of collecting all the data, building a war room, reviewing the data, validating the business model, and then validating the financial model, and then finally saying, okay, how much time is it going to take? How much money will I need to get to what particular milestone? What does the market, VC market look like at this point in time in terms of raising? Should I raise a little bit more money, take a little bit less money? And all those valuation decisions that, seem impossible to understand actually start crystallizing. They'll just, it's not that difficult, because it just happens once you put all the data in front of your team and your advisors, right? So once you've got all of that together, essentially you make your decision. Do you want to change your business model, or do you want to go ahead? You're ready to go ahead. That's when you basically, going to the last bullet, you basically start writing your business plan, and essentially, there's a whole process by which you raise angel money or VC money. You put it all together, and then you get through your contacts, you'll set up your meetings, etc., and hopefully, some investors will be motivated to give you a term sheet. So so that is the process. So what I'd like, we'll go through the remaining 3 or 4 BMCs that are left after the break. But next week, I'd like you all to, the teams, to assume that you've done, the customer discovery portion and the customer validation portion. You've visited, potential customers, etc. So just make it hypothetical. I'm not saying that do it, but as seriously as possible. And then see if you can write up the 12 slides needed for a business plan. I'm not expecting everybody to be perfect, but I think the process of writing those 12 slides, you can divvy up the work. Everybody's got 3 to 5 people. So some people are good into marketing, some in product development, some in finance, some in sales. So divvy up the work, get the slides, meet a couple of times afterwards, online or whatever. And next week, let's have, each of the 12 teams spend, 10 minutes presenting your slides, okay, on, basically a business plan for your BMC. Okay, so let's take a quick 10-minute break because we'll then go ahead and finish off the BMCs. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great.
So whose is this part?
This is Gurmeet.
Gurmeet?
Yeah, but I think we have one.
Okay, we can tell him he lost his part.
So we have one.
The other, we went to the other place. My story.
Oh, okay. So how is that?
Very good. Actually. Very good.
So we also heard two stories here.
Huh?
We also heard two stories here.
Two stars. Oh, two speakers.
Yeah.
Ah.
The first one was good. No, somebody just told me.
Yeah. I think we had some. Yeah.
Ah.
That was more about like last two marketing segments, or what was the topic?
They were telling about
Their own
so
personal
the second story, how we should first. As a first we will completely technology, second we will completely say still do something. And I will try to scale down. And then first one I told about this how we start. I think he mostly focus on this,
How he was. But did they talk about customer market, or it was more about how they raise the price?
yeah, not only overall way of exploring how they did it.
Should be. But he didn't talk anything about the class, right? Or anything large.
No, just now.
Just now. So we have the class part.
So now we get how to convert this BMC.
This right now, right? This
Yeah.
I listen. I listen to the second speaker also. So this is, but let's just see browse to come on.
Yeah, no, not not
Yeah, so we still have to do that reading live. But currently, do you guys think we should meet often now before the next speaker?
I think
Right? Because this is our time just to get time to go. Sure. The rest of it. Oh, they're going to block it.
How high database. So that's the thank you.
I personally know him that he's so that might be an advantage. But I think a couple of places where I do some recording. So he says like I asked like does your blood sugar levels? He said, then I said, what do you do at that?
I asked him that does my wife already died? And I knew once that
Hey, how are you?
there are people who are religious. In our character, those are radical. Yeah, that's the phase where we have to do the concept. Why you would have to invest in money? Not regular
I took your chair. It's like a musical chair, right? Somebody does it.
Okay.
I'm joking.
You found another chair.
कुर्सी कुर्सी नहीं छोड़ेंगे.
कुर्सी का किस्सा
I have a lot of time.
Two kids.
You want a drink? Dina, drink is done. She wants. He likes Diet Coke. Oh yes, I can give you some. Thank you.
I'm gonna pick up from
Now he's switching hats from president to videographer. So Diet Coke. No clothes. That's too much
I am
sugar.
very tremendous when I have to because I don't know how people do it.
Thank you. It's like, Tina, we have a late date next week.
Satisfaction. So I hope the number is right. It's different.
So you can see that sometimes entrepreneurs will just create a string of companies in the same field, but a different platform every time. There's a market. Technology never stays fixed. Technology is always going to entrepreneur. Okay,
Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
All right, let's take our seats. Before we start on BMC, there are two girls in the back I like to recognize. We have been talking about this joke, which is on the whiteboard outside. These two were the key people who put that together. Anisha and Sindhu, would you stand up, please? Anisha and Sindhu. Let's give them a big hand. All right, so we start the BNC, and the first group is the smart alarms.
You sent us the stuff.
Sir?
You sent us the stuff.
Yes, we did. Yes, we have sent it to you.
Oh, you got it?
Yes. Business.
I actually sent it to Professor Sudarshan last week.
Okay,
To his
Sudarshan,
email.
can you forward it to me? Which email are you going to send it? Is that the last one or
Did you pick a name of the company yet?
Smart alert. We'll go with smart alert right now.
Did we pick a name of the company yet?
Yeah, just for now it is smart alarm.
Yeah, smart.
You can now exchange.
All right, that's all right.
They will source data.
I am sending options, but you can.
One should be, yeah, we updated it last week. From Prashant.
Right. I
Yeah, that should be fine.
if I had time, I would.
Good evening. Can I have your attention? Let me first introduce my team. Sachin, Prasad, Ankur, and you know me as Simmerjeet. Is this okay? All right. If you recollect, we spoke about smart alarms. Basically, we are trying to build an ecosystem where we are going to have IoT devices which are going to help people feel secure, and in case of emergencies, they are able to connect with their social network and or regulatory emergency services who can come to their assistance as required. Now, in this journey, as we have been talking to our team, we have been talking about the devices and how it will interact with the technology. So we came up with two options. Option one, which is building our own network, which would be on machine to machines. And that is what Prasad will talk to you in a minute. And the other option was leveraging the Bluetooth or the traditional networks using our existing mobile phones. And that's what Sachin will speak to you. And once these two speak, and if time permits, we're going to take questions from you. All right, over to you, Prasad.
Okay, so good evening, folks.
No, that's not on.
All right.
Maybe take this.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the main problem which you are trying to solve. Okay.
Hello? Say.
Mic testing. Okay. So the main problem that we are trying to solve in India, every 5 minutes a woman gets sexually harassed, and every 2 minutes a woman gets molested. And in the past 1 year, 3 out of every 5 young women was e-paced. So this is a very big problem, not only in India but in other parts of the world. So the way we are trying to solve this problem is using IoT wearable device. And in one of our options, we are trying to use a dedicated IoT network, and it will provide a lot of advantages. So the main three key value propositions are as follows. So the number one, it is user friendly. So it's a low cost device, and you don't have to charge it very often. It will stay for a couple of years. And it is going to be extremely user friendly. So there are 2 ways of triggering an alarm when someone is in danger. Automatic way is when someone is in danger, you measure their vitals. So if it is high blood pressure, a combination of blood pressure, their pulse rate, perspiration level on their skin, or it could be some other combinations. And manual triggering, and when someone wants to initiate it manually. So this goes to an open sensor cloud, and we plan to integrate that with other third-party systems. For example, a drone can come and then see where the incident is happening, and then the law enforcement could be notified, and social network of that person who has previously registered their dear ones, they could be informed. And the other concept which we have come up with is called crowdsourcing, crowd helping. So every good citizen wants to be of help to someone in need. So if someone wants to be of help to someone who's in danger, then they can sign up for a crowd helper, and then those people could be notified. Again, this option could be set up by the person. And then there's a lot of integrations which we can do with this. So we are essentially trying to come up with an ecosystem. Again, there are many customer segments, and we have chosen a beachhead for urban working women who are between age groups 25 and 50, who are working, making at least more than 50K each year. And then also college-going people, teenagers, and also young women. And there are other segments, for example, many kids who are vulnerable to kidnap, even they can be using this service. Customer relationships will be extremely, leveraging the social media network and then the word of mouth. Again, channels, we have direct website, direct sales and all. And I'll let Sachin take care of key partners and activities.
Yeah, so I'll quickly add on the what is the second option is all about. So as we're going through this customer validation phase, the option one requires a dedicated M2M network, which is not currently available in India. So we are trying to partner and see what the strategy is to come up with the revenue sharing model and those kind of stuff, which may take some time. So that's the option two is something that we are using the existing Bluetooth low energy, and that can there are some devices already in the market. We can use them as we can become a platform, or we can build some of those devices which can go through your phone. Now there is a dependency on the phone. That is where our option two is. So we will so depending on how the customer validation works out, we will go with one of the option. So that's the infrastructure so we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'll take a minute to explain our cost structure and financials.
Do we have
I
time?
think let's just focus on, see if there are any questions. I think we.
All right, we'll take questions from you. It is an ecosystem where the hardware device it would be obviously a wearable, and it would work with the ecosystem. It would be cloud-based.
So I guess, and maybe you guys already are talking through this. So how would you be making money, like by selling the device? Is the hardware?
That is going to be one avenue of making money, but SaaS model would be there where we would be able to leverage or monetize much better, because in hardware, as you know, the profit margins are so much, but in SaaS, they are much better.
Yeah, so the other way of making money is right now in India, there are many startups which are focusing on IoT, and this dedicated IoT network has a lot of value even for those startups. So when they are using our infrastructure, then we'll be having they'll be sharing their revenue. So that is one.
So in option one, we briefly spoke about machine-to-machine networks. So we can have our own competition run off those networks, and we can get the revenue generation based on the messages which flow through.
So just to expand on what Synergy just said, there are multiple pieces of this ecosystem. One is the M2M network, the other is the device. Third is the analytics platform that we run in the cloud to generate the alarms. So we can monetize every piece of this ecosystem. The M2M network could be utilized by other IoT device manufacturers. Our analytics platform could be leveraged by other similar products, which can, or complementary products, which can use our service to trigger security alarms. And then we will have our service on our own.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. Let's use the microphone.
So perhaps I missed this, but I wanted to understand the advantage of using an IoT device as opposed to just, let's say, a mobile phone with an alarm system built in.
Yeah. Well, let's say you are caught in a situation. Our presumption is that you are unable to reach your phone and open an app and hit the right button, because let's say someone is under an attack. At that point, you can't say, hold on, let me trigger the alarm. You want to have a secondary way of triggering it without reaching the phone, unlocking the phone, opening the app, and then hitting the right keys.
In addition, smartphones always create some challenges. Number one, you always need to make sure it is fully charged. What if it runs out of charge and then you are in a current situation? That's it. You have this bottleneck. Second one is usually in India people have a data plan on their smartphones, and then they usually run out of the data within the close of the monthly cycle. So that is another bottleneck.
So I understand.
We have that. We'll come to you.
Regarding the smartphone, you said people will not have access, but actually I've heard when you go to location which is not safe, normally you keep your phone open, even in your taxi and all, right? You keep your phone open so you can dial.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to reach and test your idea, actually it's better to, my suggestion, better to try with the phone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. One more over here.
So what do you think is the key differentiator in your product? I know there are a couple of other products which are targeting such solutions, right? So what do you think is the key differentiator?
One is user friendly. So right now, the existing solutions, they use Bluetooth Low Energy to communicate with the smartphone. And then, like I said, smartphone does introduce some challenges. Having a dedicated IoT network is going to bring some advantages. Number one, you don't have to charge the IoT device so often because this dedicated IoT network is purposefully built for low bandwidth applications. So this IoT device, all it does is it sends few bits of information very rarely, and it can last for more than a year or even a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I heard it's not Bluetooth. So my question is, what about the challenges of the usual network challenges? You're up in a mountain, you're hiking, or what there's, you don't have the usual cellular.
Yes. So as you imagine a cellular network, in the option one, we are talking about built-in an alternate network, which would cover an area which would be cheaper to build and cheaper and easier to deploy compared to a cellular network. Yeah.
I mean, 2G, 3G, or 4G, to install a tower, it requires like few hundreds of thousands of dollars. But to install a Sigfox, I'm giving an example of a startup which is having a dedicated IoT network, and it costs few thousands of dollars, and then even the range is better. The purpose, I mean, the main reason being, it uses a ultra narrow band frequency, which doesn't require a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh.
Welcome to you.
Where? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see you.
So have you considered developing on a purely software basis? Like, because there are plenty of watches out there, right? Like the Apple Watch and like the Fitbit, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That have like already connected servers, everything connected, right? To the Internet of Things, right?
Yeah.
So if you make it software based, what do you think would happen?
As I earlier explained, in situations, let me address it in twofold. Apple Watch, yes, it's a brilliant product. Now, the target market, not everyone can afford an Apple Watch. And two, we have an issue with the battery as well. Apple Watch needs to be charged. And especially when there is a situation where an alarm is triggered, you require the battery consumption to start from there onwards till the emergency is concluded. And when you keep your GPS on for a few minutes, you know how soon the power drops. And that is the challenge we are trying to accomplish by leveraging on the option one, which is machine-to-machine networks, which we can leverage much better and give much better user experience.
Even smartwatch also relies on a smartphone.
Yeah.
Communicate on its own.
Okay, last question.
Did you want a question? No?
I can talk to them separately too.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, I would say that
Bringing it up.
yeah, I would say that, focus on validating the need first with the customer, and then try and implement a MVP, just an application that'll allow you to test and figure out, how exactly the right answer is to tackle the need. There are people in this business, for example, a lot of you have heard of First Alert for old people.
Yeah.
And, it's a big business.
Yeah.
They pay $15 or $20 a month, and they advertise it on TV. If they can afford to advertise on TV, obviously they're making a lot of money. And a lot of old people are using it. But see, they found a real need. That, people falling, hurting their hip, and old people have a way, are so scared of getting medical help in time. They found people to sign up for it. I think similarly.
And they have a longer term as well. These companies have 2 to 3 year term. Where they have to keep up.
Exactly. So I think in your particular case, I think you have a game plan, but
the main challenge is going to be to find a need that people will pay money for, that you can scalably build a business.
Sure.
Right?
All right.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you
Thank
for
you.
your feedback.
Who is ready next?
Yeah, okay. Good.
Come with the idea one. When you were on the break, you said you have an Ant-Man, you have a Spider-Man, you don't have an idea.
So you have to get it. Yeah.
I can shoot him out.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Hi, everyone. So we're from the Get It team. So Get It, once again, is our on-the-spot purchasing platform. So I'll actually probably go through customer segments first, just to give you the context for who the application is for. So the customer segment we want to target, our direct customer, will be big box retailers. We've kind of narrowed down our scope just because we still have to do customer validation. So these big box retailers are retailers like Costco, Sam's Club, and Target, where a lot of things are pre-packaged. So we're kind of avoiding the use case of produce for now, and alcohol as well for now, because that requires ID, getting something by weight. So we're just not going to tackle that just yet. The second, end users, so not quite our customers, but the end users of the product are shoppers who want to save time while shopping. So this gets into our value propositions, where the first one is a quicker checkout process. The fact that I don't need to stand in line for, more than 10 minutes and I can just go and get my item. That's really the value prop for the end users that we want. In terms of for our customers, the people who will be paying our money and implementing the system, it's the need for fewer and less skilled cashiers. So they don't need to hire as much. They don't need to, get as many resources. This also will help increase customer purchases and loyalty. That's our speculation. The fact that you can go in and out of a store quickly means you're more liable to go there in the first place, right? And ultimately, that one thing we could provide after understanding user patterns is kind of the analytics on for both stores and users, and kind of give advice to them, so to say that, hey, people are buying this really quickly because it's so easy to get and whatnot. So our customer relationships that we need to maintain are, first, to maintain relationships with the CIO and sales departments, because IT teams and big box retailers are exactly who we'll need to effectively sell to and get them on board with the idea first. Right. The second customer relationship we want to do is immediate service for any software and hardware issues, because ultimately this does tie into retail and actually exchange of money, right? So being able to tap into the e-commerce systems that big box retailers already have, as well as the inventory management systems that they've implemented in the store itself, we need to make sure that technically is all up and running. And finally, customer service, of course, for end users if they have problems, putting their credit card in, whatnot. Those are other customer relationships we want to maintain. Our channels, cold calls to retailers, managers, retail industry connections. So if we know anyone in, Walmart, Sam's Club, et cetera, we need to actually leverage those relationships. In terms of distribution of the actual application itself, it would be via the iOS and Android app stores. That's what we determined. And maybe if we need it, we could have a desktop application in the future. We don't quite know the use case for it just yet, but if we need it, it's there.
Oh, okay, I think I have. Okay, so in terms of the, moving on to, I guess, the internals and the product development side. So for key partners, we're imagining that just as Pradeep mentioned, we'll want to be able to integrate with the inventory management systems. We'll obviously be working very closely with our customers, so we kind of imagine them, in a sense, being our key partners as well. Along the way, we might also want to consider something we're going to look at is payment platforms between Apple Pay or Google Checkout. Or any of these other companies that are around. One of the things for us to consider here is some of these companies that we want to work at, Costco, Target, for example, SharePoint, is that they already have their own existing e-commerce platforms. So it might be possible for us to just integrate into their existing platform as well. So something we're exploring there. Key activities, obviously at the end of the day, we're a mobile app, so we're software with the corresponding back-end hardware as well. So we're going to have to look at cloud hardware, the software tech development for that. The two key activities that we really imagine where we bring a lot of value is our understanding of the users, like are the people actually shopping with it, and being able to present a good, valuable user experience to them, which may not be Costco's or Target's expertise, for example, on an app, and then being able to quickly train and onboard retailers into how best to use this platform and how to, and really like being able to like understand how to integrate with them as quickly as possible. Because let's say they do magically decide to go to CPO, we want to know how to quickly integrate into their backends and everything and get something up and running. Key resources based on that, being able to establish these customer relationships, having a software development team that can deliver products and changes to us quickly, a user research team that really understands it, so probably just us at this point, and then cloud hardware, because we can never really have the system go down, because obviously that means money for our customers. Cost structure, I mean, this is just kind of a generic thing, like we're imagining it's going to be the sum of everything. This is something we'll probably figure out as things go on, but we're imagining the cloud hardware and the software development costs will be pretty important up initially. And then over time, as we start scaling, if that happens, then marketing costs and trying to bring more customers in. And revenue?
I think, yeah, revenue license. So how we are envisioning this as a revenue stream is retailers who decide to implement our system will license out to them on a monthly subscription basis. So that they don't have to like, invest in the system as such. They can pay as they go. The moment they decide it's not for them, they can just walk away with that. And the second side is, as we say, we'll be generating a lot of analytics data based on the buying patterns from the customers. And we can actually anonymously sell that data to the advertisers to basically advertise special products when the person is shopping. So for example, you must have, many of you might have seen, you get the Sunday newspaper and you get that insert where you have a lot of coupons, right? And those coupons are not available online. Those are literally clip-on coupons. So you cut it, take it, and then you scan it in the register. But think of it like you have to keep in the mind, okay, which coupon I have and whether that product is there and I want to buy that product. So that's a hassle for you. It's a 3-4 step process in your mind, right? If we can leverage the same coupon companies and get those digitized coupons and make them accepted by all these retailers at the point of checkout, those coupons can automatically match up with the item I'm buying, saying that, oh, you are buying this item, so these are the discounts available for you. And that's where we can charge these advertising companies to push those coupons on the fly. Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, the retail company's main business is retail, and their main business is not building the software. Yeah. So the question is, why would the retail company will buy the product from us instead of building themselves, right? That's what your question was. So my answer to that is retail company's main business is doing retail and not building the software, right? So anytime they have to build a software like that, they'll have to take the outside help. And then obviously they are experts in doing the retailing, but not actually, I mean, they won't necessarily think of using the software to reduce the cost or streamline the operations, right? And think of it, the big retailers, let's say a person like me, if I'm going to buy the two items in Costco, and if I see a big line, I would just walk out. I wouldn't even go. I wouldn't even, for that matter, don't take a Costco's membership because I know that it's always crowded and I don't want to like spend time. But with this approach, if I give that facility suddenly from your mobile phone while you're like going through the aisles, you take the 2 items, click it, pay it, and go out the door. So that would give them some value. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Can you, sir?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, the idea is great from a user perspective, right? But the comment that you made that the retailers don't invest in software is wrong.
Okay.
I think all the brick and mortar companies are heavily investing in IT. I mean, take Walmart, any company. They're trying to beat Amazon. That's the level they're going to, right? So if you're saying it's going to take, say, a few $1 million to build this kind of an app, I would bet all these retailers would love to really go build it on their own, rather than giving you all the infrastructure to integrate their systems and uploading the catalog, so on and so forth. It's a bit of a hassle for them to even adopt your solution. That's my advice of them.
Yeah.
No, and thank you. I think that's very valid feedback. Obviously, we've just been talking about this for 3 or 4 days, so I think we do recognize that that's an important question that we're hoping that we can, like, as we talk to more retailers, we'll find out. That's another.
Yeah, so I have 2 comments. Number one, usually these retailers, they want the customers to spend a lot of time in their store. The reason, and then also they change the location. So this week, if you go and then find a particular item in this aisle, next time it won't be there in that aisle. So in a way, the stores may not be willing to use a software which is going to bring down the time a customer spends in their store. So number two, I went to Target a couple of weeks back, and there was a small store outside. So what they do is people can order their items, and then they can just go and pick it up.
Upside.
So given that there is a startup in that space, so how do you compete with that?
So I think I'm so for the first part, we agree. I think that's something like in terms of like the amount of time that you spend in the store is something that every store wants to maximize, because that's how you like how to suddenly see something and remember you want to buy it. So kind of our hypothesis there, and again, it's something we'd have to test and find out, is that we're not trying to reduce the amount of time that people spend walking around the store, say, looking at stuff and finding stuff. Because if you're going in to buy something, let's say you want to buy milk, you're going to go still, you're walking in, still going to buy the milk. If all that you went for was to buy the milk, all you're doing after that is walking to the checkout counter. And so now instead, all you're trying to do is we're trying to minimize the time that they're just waiting in the checkout counter, give them potentially more time to spend walking around the store. So that's one of our things.
And then I think coming back to your point, the other startup in that space where you can take the curbside checkout. Now, the thing is that I'm not seeing that obviously, but I presume that you order online before, like a Google Express or something like that, and then you pick up the items from the curbside. That's the thing, right? But here we are talking about the store experience. That means the retailer would want the person to come to the store. So we are not actually taking away that that aspect of like person coming in the store and walking in the store from the retailer. So there's a difference. Like here, the person is still going to the store. I would love to go to the store, but I don't want to stand in the line for half an hour to buy the product. I love to go to Costco because I can get the stuff cheaper, but then I don't want to spend 30 minutes of my time standing in the line. So that is the problem we are trying to solve. Yeah. Yeah.
I like the idea of your digital coupon versus paper coupon, and it's a fact actually.
Yeah.
I had a real experience. If you go in iPhone and show the KFC coupon, they don't accept. They ask me to go home and bring the actual code. So how your app is going to solve that issue?
So okay, so that is where we will have to tie our systems to retailers' POS systems, because the reason they ask you to bring the paper coupons, because they have to, like, those are manufacturing coupons, right? So they have to take those coupons, reduce the price from this from the POS systems, and then they have to surrender those coupons to the manufacturers for getting the money on those coupons, because they always get paid by the manufacturers, right? I mean the companies. Now the thing is that how we will solve that problem with the help of digital coupons. Most of the retailers already solved that. Like if you go to Walgreens or Rite Aid, they started accepting the digital coupons instead. So they would just like take a scan of that coupon, and that scan will get registered into the POS system, and they can sell that, send that scan to a manufacturer. So usually, I mean, if you try to reuse that coupon, it won't work.
So basically, there is still a loop for you to solve.
Yeah.
So you don't need to care before.
No, not in Costco.
And second thing is, I used to work for Point Inside, so we did integration with Meyer, which is East Coast company.
Yeah.
So it's all digital coupons. You don't need to carry any physical.
Right.
So you just. So I think most of the vendors are already into digital. So otherwise, because you send the paper, right? I think they wait. And, so
more than paper, I'm talking about matching the coupons with the product. So let's say I'm buying a product, right? And there are 3 or 4 brand products of the same category list on the aisle, and suddenly when I scan it, and if I get suggestions that, hey, you buy this same item, you would get this discount or something.
Yeah. Toothpaste, right? It shows that these are the coupons.
Okay, yeah, similar thing. So that's just, but that is not a core feature we are trying to target. Our core, our core value proposition is still reducing your time in the checkout line. These are just the side benefits, I would say.
Hi, I like your idea. I'm with you. But the only thing is you're trying to reduce the checkout time. I'm sorry if I missed that.
Yes.
But once somebody takes a picture or scans the code and the checkout is done, they have to wait in line to get the product.
No.
If I'm in Costco, there's usually a long line just for checkout, and if I've done scanning my items pretty quickly and then I say pay and it's done, and then I have to go somewhere and pick up my products.
No.
Where we did a bit better about the value proposition. But our idea is kind of like, let's say, imagine you're in Costco, you're pushing your shopping cart around, and then you want to go pick up 2 things. You pick up a gallon of milk, I suppose. You take your phone, you scan it. It adds it to your virtual shopping cart. You put it in.
Okay, got it. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Right?
So you have the product.
You just click, hey, hopefully your credit card information or Costco, the American Express is loaded.
Yeah.
And just process it.
Yeah, and it gives you the receipt where you you can go to the Costco and doorkeeper, you can show the receipt on the and they can count the items. It's not going to like yeah.
So the idea is good. I was thinking of a little variation on that. So the idea is that you want customer to have an experience where he can do things quickly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want him to be in this store so that you can sell and
Yeah.
let him see other things.
Yeah.
So what if you just set these samples up and not the whole number of products there, and all the actual products are back in the inventory? And this person just scans through the mobile phone or the scanner over there, just scans the sample. And somebody in the back actually packs it up and takes 5 minutes or so. And during that time, 5 minutes, you can actually cross-sell other things to him, in the sense, provide some training or food samples or other things, or some entertainment. The customer is happy, there's entertainment, and he was done with 1 minute. And
yeah, that'll be awesome idea. I think that'll be awesome idea.
Okay, so what I would say is you really need to validate the customer need, the retailer's need, because if the retailer is going to put a new system in place. So just a little insight. I was there at Stanford University where the student competition for their applications was going on, and these were the top 50 companies. One of the companies that was there has developed a shopping cart application. So you take your iPhone and plug it into the shopping cart device that they've got, and then automatically, as you walk the aisles, automatically it'll tell you, about the products, the discounts, everything.
Okay.
Simultaneously, they'll be cross-selling you, upselling you, informing you, helping you do your search, tracking, locating. All the analytics are fed in automatically. And so they're providing a whole bunch of benefits. And you're using your standard iPhone, which plugs into their electronic device, which is hooked into whatever system they have. And they've already got Andronico, the grocery store in Palo Alto, that has provided them the entire inventory and all the entire system. So I think this is a good market segment to get into. Because obviously wherever there's a lot of billions of dollars of transactions, there's a lot of inefficiencies, and because of the way people are doing the transactions, because of Apple Pay, because of iPhones, smartphones, etc., it's all changing. And there's an opportunity for change. So it's always good for an entrepreneur to enter a market segment where things are changing. And you can see how the students at Stanford University came up with an app, and they've already got a customer and or a beta customer, and they're off and running, right? And they developed this entire application as a student at Stanford, third year or fourth year student, or maybe in a second year student. So my viewpoint is that, something like this, you've got your initial insight that, people would like to go in and out quickly. So, but, when you talk to retailers, you might find 20 other requirements. And then you can figure out, where you really want to prioritize your needs and focus, and whether you want to have a smartphone app or do you want to have, something else. Okay.
Yeah. We already talked to two retailers, to
Okay.
Costco and to Indian grocery store, India Cash and Carry.
Awesome.
Found out a huge difference between their requirements, obviously.
Excellent.
So we know that Indian grocery stores are not our customers, definitely. I mean, because of the some mechanics that goes on into the tracking and inventory system. But Costco had shown some interest. They called us for the second meeting with their manager. So we'll see.
Excellent. Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much. Good job. Who's the next one?
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys, just a small request. The microphone is for the recording because we can't hear you in the for the recording if you're not using the microphone. So just raise your hand and wait for the microphone to come to you to ask questions. Thanks.
And gold canvas. So gold canvas is here.
Is rent a roof here?
They are done.
Oh, they're already done. Okay.
So any other team apart?
Gold canvas.
Yeah, okay, gold canvas, you are up.
Just one?
No, so I was just I was going to talk about experience that I had with the Angel Pad real quick, and then I'll call these 4 other teammates up like a minute or 2 later.
Yeah.
Cool. So have any of you guys heard of Angel Pad? So what about like Y Combinator? So Angel Pad's very similar to Y Combinator. It was started by this guy Thomas Corte. He's had 8 batches so far. He accepts about 12 startups for each batch, and so far 100% of the batch companies have had significant seed rounds after the program. And he's had a bunch of really successful companies that have been acquired by Twitter and Apple and Groupon and Yahoo, and so pretty good track record. So what was pretty exciting is my company, Bold Canvas. I'm not sure if you guys remember from the second week. Basically, we're building a digital marketing platform. 2,000 companies applied. A very small number got invited to interview. We were one of the companies that got invited to interview. So we were over in New York City interviewing for it. And so I thought I'd kind of share our experience because I think a lot of people in the class might want to apply to Y Combinator or one of these kind of programs. And there was definitely a lot that we learned over the past 2 weeks about how this whole thing works. So first of all, like we had applied to Y Combinator a few months back, and we poured so much time and effort into this thing. And Y Combinator actually interviews a lot more people than Angel Pad does. And we didn't get invited to interview for Y Combinator, and we were really sad about it. And we said, oh man, this is terrible. So when Angel Pad came around, we said, all right, you know what, like we're too busy. And so I knocked out the entire application literally probably in an hour and a half and just submitted it because I was like, whatever, like these things, like it's too hard to get in, not worth the time. And we actually got in, even though it was more selective. And I think the key learning point there is if you spend too much time and you share your, what you wrote out with 20 different people, everyone gives you different advice, and it starts to sound jumbled. You're saying too much and people get confused and it doesn't have a single voice. And so I think if you guys apply, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say like, don't try that hard, but at least in my experience, pretty much just like, if you know your business, just write about it clearly, do it quickly, get it done. And if the substance is good, I think you get in, and all that other stuff is kind of a waste of time. Now, the second thing with the interview. So we did a ton of prep. We spoke with both the professors. We reached out to a bunch of Angel Pad alumni. We spoke with all these people and got a ton of really great advice. But the Angel Pad alumni, what they had told us is like, look, these guys, they're going to try to break you. They're going to try to make you cry. And they're going to tell you that your idea is horrible and this and that. And so you really need to know why your idea is good, why your market's good, all this stuff. So we did all this prep for it. And then when we go in there, they say, okay, we love your idea. It's great. We don't even want to look at your pitch. And so we never even got a chance to talk about our idea, our market, or any of that stuff. Instead, they hit us in an area where we were actually pretty unprepared. We weren't expecting it. So what they said is, okay, your business is basically 2 components. There's a website builder, and then there's the digital marketing tools, right? The digital marketing part is the part that we're actually excited about, but you've spent all this time building out your website builder, and we understand that that needs to be built first. But ultimately, if the digital marketing part isn't ready yet, then why should we invest, right? And it was kind of a question I wasn't prepared for, and in retrospect, I think I should have been prepared for. But I think the key lesson there is you can talk to 100 people and get advice, but like your interview at these places is probably going to be very specific to your situation. I think these guys that do the interviews are really, really smart, and they know what your main weakness is, and they'll get right to it. Whereas a lot of other people that you speak with who are not in the business of constantly interviewing startups, they might not necessarily pick up on your biggest weakness right away. So I think that's kind of what our experience was. Ultimately, over the past 7 days, we've been working really hard to like prove out this this digital marketing piece, because the way AngelPad works is they don't accept anyone on the spot. Y Combinator, for instance, like same evening, they'll let you know if you get in. These guys take about a month to make their final decision. So we actually built our first digital marketing product. We're probably going to release it this Friday. If any of you guys are interested in trying it, you can email me and let me know. But basically, it's like this blogging product, and the idea is that like you got to get found on either Google or social media, right? And how do you do that? So you need to create really good content, and blogging is a great way to do it. But if you go on WordPress, there's like 2 empty boxes. One says title, one says body. What do you write there, right? Average business owner who's not a full-time marketer has no idea what to write, right? So we built a wizard. It walks you through. You're only writing 2 or 3 sentences at a time, and you get a blog post that works really good for Google and works really good for social media. And it's easy, it's not intimidating, etc. So if anyone's interested in trying, it'd be a huge help to us to get some users before we go back to them with our follow-up. And so yeah, that was kind of our experience. So I'll invite the team up to do our BMC. But also, if you guys have any questions about AngelPad or Y Combinator or applying to any of that stuff, you can email me anytime. More than happy to help.
Your email for trying the product?
Sure. So Mayank, MAYANK, @boldcanvas.com. Boldcanvas, BOLDCANVAS.com. So you're good with the cost part? Okay, excellent.
Okay, get going.
All right, so while they're doing that, I'll start real quick. So in terms of our BMC, the first thing I'll talk about is like value proposition. Kind of talked about it already with this blogging piece, but the general idea is that we want to make it really easy for you to come in, build a professional website, drive a ton of traffic to your website, and then convert that traffic into leads, convert those leads into customers, and convert those customers into repeat customers and brand loyalists. And so we're kind of building the whole like suite of tools around making all that stuff really easy for what we feel is basically 99% of the market. So small, medium enterprises, small businesses, individuals, nonprofits who don't have full-time marketing teams, and digital marketing really isn't that much of a possibility for them. We're trying to really make that possible for them. So Crochet actually is really interesting. So he's used some of our competitors before, and so I think you can kind of talk about where we provide value versus them.
So like sometimes like to create websites just for fun or just for hobbies, I use Wix really often, and it's one of the most challenging websites ever. I mean, for instance, in Bold Canvas, when you want to create an image with a title and text, it's already pre-made and they know what the user wants. While when you're using Wix and you choose an image, you have to choose an image, then a title, then the text, and it's extremely confusing to use. So also like when I use Wix, like I feel like the user interface is pretty hard, and like finding the buttons and like all like the transitions and all that is extremely challenging. And for instance, in Bold Canvas, I wanted to figure out how to use a background and I had no idea how. In 3 seconds, I was able to figure it out, and it's extremely user-friendly.
Awesome. So we can talk about cost structure and revenue. Do you want to talk about? Okay, awesome. So you can talk about cost structure.
I didn't hear my voice.
If you want to do revenue.
So, can you guys hear me?
No.
All right, okay, so the cost structure is really simple. So we have 3 main parts in the cost structure. Our first part is kind of like the development, right? So we want to get the website built with our HTML, all that CSS stuff, right? All the good stuff. So that takes software engineers, developers, stuff like that. So we're gonna have to pay them money, salaries, right? Our second part is the cloud data center, and that's going to take about.
This one's not ours. This one's not ours. This isn't our cost structure, right? That's someone else's thing. Yeah.
Audience cannot hear you guys, so just use the regular mic. Here.
So it's just basically we have the variable cost structure.
All right, so forget what I said. So basically, Bold Canvas has a very low variable cost structure. It's a very simple website. That's what the founder's aim was, right? To make a really simple way to make your own website. So the cost structure is very simple, and
Yeah, so basically the idea is that, like, you know, these websites, even if they get a couple thousand like hits per month, the cost of servicing that type of client is extremely low. And so our cost for every new client that we take on is you know, also very low. Depending on how we do distribution might be a big cost, but the way we've handled distribution so far through our distribution partnerships is kind of like we have these kind of like agencies. Like, so for instance, there's a company called Gildersberg. They go to China every quarter. They get hundreds of companies that want to do business in the United States, and they redo their branding, their website, marketing. They introduce them to businesses over here. Currently, they use WordPress. They're switching over to us. We don't pay them anything for that. They feel like they're going to save money and save time by using Bold Canvas. And so, you know, those types of distribution partnerships at our stage right now are really effective because we don't have a ton of money. And so if we had to pump a bunch of cash into our marketing and then wait for it to return and, you know, all of that, it'd be really slow. And so, you know, that's a little bit about our cost. In terms of revenue, we have two ways that we generate revenue. One is just direct, so we'll charge you a subscription fee for using our product. But then there's also some indirect ways for us to make money. So for instance, let's say you set up an e-commerce business on our platform. You're gonna have some transaction fees. That transaction fees could go to someone else, or we could in-house build something to where then we get to start taking a little piece of those transaction fees. Also, a lot of people, if you're starting a business, maybe you need business cards or other, you know, company stationery, t-shirts, all of that type of stuff. Maybe we don't necessarily focus on that, but we can like build partnerships where then, you know, kind of if you go with our affiliates, you get a great price and we get a little piece of that. And so that's kind of how we think about that part. I think that's basically the main stuff. I think in terms of like the partners that we're going with, a lot of it is being built in-house. And the reason we're doing that is we think that website building isn't a new thing. Digital marketing isn't a new thing. Ultimately, it's the details that make it really hard. And so we're building a lot of that stuff. But I think there's questions. So I think that's probably a better use of time. So.
Yeah, just one question. There is something called AppSumo we were using.
Yeah.
For carpet, you know, vendor for the customer.
Absolutely,
when we enter and pop-ups and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have all those features? Because we cannot use two products, right?
Yeah, so we do. And so you think about it, right? So initially, AppSumo is actually what we consider kind of a partner. So we've integrated AppSumo into our platform. So it's kind of like you build your website, you click the marketing tab, and one of the things will be like email capture, right? And it'll kind of walk you through a really easy process of getting AppSumo set up. Eventually, maybe we build an in-house version of that we think will be even better than AppSumo. But for now, we think AppSumo does a pretty good job, and we'll help you get that integrated and running on your site really easily.
So you have a WordPress plugin?
No, so it's like the entire CMS. Like, so instead of using WordPress, you'd use our CMS.
But our website is built on WordPress and we for AppSumo. It's
No, so very true. And so I think what we're thinking about now in terms of our digital marketing tools, like the blogging and all of that, is to figure out a way, how do you make it, you know, so that people can integrate it regardless of what platform they're using. But our initial thought wasn't that. And the reason for that is that, like, you might be pretty technical and able to hook up WordPress and do all of that stuff on your own, but the vast majority of the market isn't able to. And you look at the back end of WordPress and it's really hard and it takes a lot of time. We've done time tests where we take a ThemeForest theme, if you're familiar with ThemeForest, right? And we said, okay, we hired WordPress professionals, Squarespace professionals, Weebly professionals, right? And we paid them and we said, hey, take this ThemeForest theme, replicate the website, right? WordPress guy took 9 hours, Squarespace, Weebly, Wix all took over 20 hours. Then we went to Coffee Shop and we gave people our platform, random people who'd never built a website before, told them to replicate the same ThemeForest theme using our platform, took on average 2.7 hours. So at the end of the day, WordPress, even if you use a professional, it's taking the professional way too long because it's way too hard, it's way too complicated. So that's kind of how we think about it. Yeah, we do. We provide the hosting. The one thing that's kind of tricky in terms of a limitation right now is like, okay, so if you're like a daycare, right? You don't have an app necessarily, right? Like your website is just a website. So that's really easy. But if you want to, like, you know, plug in kind of your back end, that's something we're still working on. It's not live yet, but eventually it'll be live. But you know, for companies that have a more complex, it's not just a website, it's a web app. You know, for those companies, our solution isn't fully ready yet.
Yeah, yeah, because you don't have the microphone. Okay. One more or no? Is there anyone else? Oh. Stop listening.
Yeah, so so the question was about whether we integrate with Shopify or any of the other e-commerce providers. So our view is, so right now we actually don't do e-commerce, and the reason is we feel like if we mess up on e-commerce, since real dollars and cents are involved, I mean, people will just totally go crazy, and so it's an area that we've kind of left to later. Later, when we do tackle it, we think we'll build a native solution, and the reason is we think Shopify is too hard. I mean, our view is everything in the market that exists is too hard. That's why you walk on the street, the average person feels like they can't set up Shopify, right? So for us to just integrate Shopify, I think that wouldn't really serve the core market that we're trying to serve.
So I think I heard a few competitors, but which is your biggest competitor, you would think?
So it depends. So there's website builders, and then there's the digital marketing side, right? So on the website builders, Wix is publicly traded. It's been there for a long time, funded for a long time. Squarespace is kind of seen as like, kind of like an up and coming. It's very like hot. In our opinion, Squarespace is not really a do-it-yourself solution. There's a huge cottage industry of like professional Squarespace developers that build people's Squarespace websites. Wix is do-it-yourself, but ultimately, I mean, you look at a Wix site, it looks like a do-it-yourself.
Where does Marketo stand?
Yeah, so Marketo, HubSpot, all those guys, they're kind of on the digital marketing side. In our opinion, if you give the average business owner, let's say they own a daycare center, HubSpot or Marketo for free, I don't think they'd be able to use it. I don't think they'd get the value out of it because it's just too hard, it's too complex, and that's where I think we're different.
I think Marketo suits well for the enterprises, and you're marketing for the small and medium businesses.
Exactly.
Anyone else?
So, Mike, clearly you've got your company off the ground, right? You've jumped in.
Yeah.
Because you're a serial entrepreneur. But you can see that, investors like to always go in at the cutting edge, or what's the latest and greatest, right? So you're right now a two-faced company, right? Web marketing and digital media, right? Digital marketing. And the web portion, they're not interested. Investors would not be interested because it's an old market. Now it's a big market. And there are new people who want to build websites all the time. So the market is big. And obviously, there are a lot of new technologies, et cetera, that are coming on and will keep coming on, HTML5 and this and that. So there will be opportunities. So I would say that, you've got to have something like Opti, we went after an existing market. But we had a very good understanding of what needed to be done and who the customers were, and we were very clear about how to get there, right? So we could grow the company very rapidly because it was an existing large market. And we caught a change, change in the marketplace, and just use that to enter the market. The biggest problem that a company like this would have is, you get stuck with, a twilight zone business, which doesn't take off and doesn't die either. Right? I mean, those are the worst kinds because you'll spend years and years and you'll never take off, and you won't be investable either because people want to invest in the cutting edge companies, right? So you have to kind of always be careful about these kinds of companies. You either know something that other people are not good at, or there's a major change coming in how websites are done, and you enter at that time. If you just go in head on into an existing market with just a small delta improvement, you will get a few customers because it's a big market. But you'll never get any momentum, nor will you get the investment to kind of get it to be own a commodity market in a big way. So this is kind of something to watch out for when you're an entrepreneur, that you don't get into a market segment where investors don't come in. It's a commodity market, and you're just going to be stuck, servicing basically break-even business, right? So that would be my main worry about this whole thing. And I would say that, do some serious thinking about your value proposition and your customer segments, and try to really figure out, do I really want to do this? And only if you are totally convinced that you can build, $100 million business or whatever you think is a target, then you jump in. So, and this is an important insight for all entrepreneurs, that, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you start a company, right? You have to wait to see if a real scalable, repeatable, profitable business can be built, right? Or you wait for some cutting edge tidal wave going through the industry, jump on, raise 50, 100 million bucks from, the VCs, and you're on for the ride, and then exit before it becomes a real business. But in general, be very careful about jumping in before you've really got something that, you feel like, you're willing to give it all, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're a big risk taker, so you give it all very quickly. But, but I think in your particular case, I think that's what I would focus on.
Yeah, I mean, so just one question, if you don't mind. So I think, entrepreneurs are got to be optimistic. Otherwise, how's it going to happen, right? But so I think one of the things that keeps me going, like, I mean, now it's been many months and you keep seeing their bank account keep going down, right? And there's like a lot of pressures. But the one thing is, we do these user tests where we have random people, strangers off the internet, who we pay 10, 15 bucks to, and we record their screens and they use our product. Sometimes they use other products, and we see the massive difference, right? So I think, like, really the difference comes down to where if you look at someone and they spend 45 minutes on Squarespace and they haven't really built anything, and you look at them, you give them 45 minutes on our platform, and 30 minutes in, they're saying, I already built 3 or 4 pages. I don't know what to do with 15 minutes. I think those are the types of data points that kind of keep me going. Ultimately, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm fooling myself, but I think the truth is that, like, you go outside of, I mean, Silicon Valley is kind of a different environment, but you go to the rest of America and you go to the rest of the world, people don't feel like they can build websites. They definitely don't feel like they can do digital marketing. And I think we're kind of making that happen.
Okay, good luck. Yeah. Great.
All right, I think we are all done, right? There is no other team. Which one is? Come on over.
Which one? What's your team?
Auto lock. Oh, we thought we did last time. We ran out of time. I'm sorry. Yes.
Auto lock.
Auto lock.
Come on, Dad.
I don't see it. Auto lock.
Did you guys send your presentation to whom?
You send it to Gmail or to Raj?
Thank you.
Make sure everyone tells the mic.
Where did you send it?
Who goes first?
Nihal. Which one? Oh, this one? Auto lock. One word?
Can you a little closer because there's a lot of you guys?
Yeah.
So just start, yeah.
Yeah.
Just be close, yeah.
So yeah, we'll keep this quick because time is running out. But quickly about the product, AutoLock is the automatic bike lock that we were talking about. So some of its value propositions is one, it gives superior functionality, and that is because the locks that we use in right now in the status quo for the bicycle industry is the same rubber locks we use whatever 20 years ago. The thing is that there's a market where we can do a change, and this would be the first of its kind of smart locks in this specific market domestically. And two, this can be competitively priced. I know it sounds like magic right now, but the thing is that near field communication, which is the only chips that we're using, we're not going to be using internet or GPS. By using just near field communication that's really low at this time, and using just that technology, we are able to create a product that only is going to cost, as we're going to talk about later on in the cost structure, $22 to $25, which is just $10 more than the actual manual locks of today. So then, because it's competitively priced and technologically superior, we think we can disrupt this market.
So AutoLock will be entering the niche market of bicycle security, which is worth about $6 billion. Although this market is enormous, there's no prominent leader currently. That's because manual locks are cheap but do not provide enough security for their user, while the few smart locks available are more expensive than the bikes they protect.
So our target market is going to be students who rely on bicycles for affordable transportation and recreational bikers who don't want to pay more for an expensive lock or a manual lock that doesn't provide their bikes enough. So we're going to be reaching our consumers through large retailers, and after establishing ourselves with Target and Walmart, we're going to be expanding to sports specialty retailers such as Dick's Sporting Goods.
Just a quick note, the customer segments are specifically for recreational bikers that are people who spend on bikes like $200 to $400. We're not trying to go for the consumer market, that the people who buy $1,000 bikes, because it would not be practical. But if we're allowed to sell a bicycle lock that's only $30 for someone who spends $200, I think that's pretty practical.
So now I'm going to be talking about the revenue. So we're planning to make deals with the retailers such as Walmart and Target and sporting stores, and also sell to original equipment manufacturers like bicycle manufacturers such as Schwinn, Mongoose, Diamondback. And then we plan to sell this product for around $35. And then this would be around $10 greater than our cost of $22 to $25 in bulk, which I'll go into detail later.
So some of the key resources that we're going to be needing in order for this company to really work is obviously office space, informational patents. We need the big box retailers, also need specialty stores for us to sell in, and a production facility. Now, the main partners we're going to go after is number one, Shenzhen Incorporation, because this is the place where we're really going to get our price point down in order to fully penetrate the market. Also, our distribution centers, such as Target, Walmart, etc., and Amazon. We're also going to need specific bike brands, such as Schwinn, Diamondback, and Mongoose, and yeah.
And then finally, key activities. One is media campaign is actually very important in our niche market, because no one here can, it's hard to name the top bicycle lock, company, because obviously this is such a niche market. So the thing is, media campaign and brand awareness is going to be a very big part of what we're doing in establishing this company, as well as, establishing the distribution and production channels.
So now I'll go into detail about the cost structure. So cost structure, as we manufacture our product in bulk, the expected cost will be ranging from $22 to $25. And also, this is a little bit more expensive than our competitors, but we offer much more in features. And some of the near field communication technology is really cheap. In fact, you can buy some of the near field communication chips for 0.01 cents.
A chip. All right. Yeah, so that's our presentation.
Great presentation. One critic. Yeah. I really didn't understand what is the problem you're trying to solve. First of all, I was expecting, what is the problem with the regular locks that we have? Mm-hmm. How are you solving that?
All right. So as a student specifically, I've lost 2 bikes itself because people can easily cut my lock, which is just the rubber lock that we use right now. Yeah. And the thing is that you can just ride off the bike. So the thing is that by using now technology, we can actually make sure that this actually never happens. These casual thefts that they come in or I forget to lock my bike. There's no way that you can ever forget to lock your bike when you have an automatic bike lock. The thing is that you can just go to school, and because of near field communication, this is the same technology that when you go near your car, it automatically opens for you, and when you go out, it locks the car. This is the same idea, except it's now in bike lock area. So then it removes that hassle.
Yeah, the one question I have, along with the fact that I don't know how this is better than a regular U-lock, which is the standard for bike locks. What happens when the battery dies? Does the lock stop working?
So the thing is that near-field communication batteries actually last for 3 to 5 years. So the thing is that replacing this battery will also be something that you have to do. But if you're going to do it for 3 to 5 years, I mean, it's a much better return when you're getting a superior functionality. And also, specifically, the thing is that we're removing the hassle of remembering to lock your bike, because as students, there's lots of places that you have to go. What if you want to just go right next to the coffee shop, but you don't find the pole or anything to lock your bike in? You can just leave your bike with our specific lock, and you don't need anything. You can just go into the coffee shop and come out, and the thing is, it's securely parked there. You need to touch your bike. So the thing is that you don't need to use a U-lock, go to some tree and then find something to wrap it around. All that hassle is taken away by the automatic lock.
So that's the point I would actually focus on more, the fact that you don't need to remember to lock your bike. It's not so much that it's safer anymore. I don't see how you could compete against Master Lock for that. It's more that you don't need to remember it, and let's say you forgot your bike key. You can just use your phone to unlock it. That might be one added.
So that's the specific unique functionality.
So overall, I think I ride a bike too, and I would love to have a lock like that. So your product sounds really cool. Just a couple of general questions I have really is, it sounds like it's an automated lock, and it's something you're going to be selling the lock itself. Yeah. And if you're selling it at a retail store, not necessarily to the bike manufacturers, you're going to have to deal with the installation process, I think.
No, so it's self-installation. So the thing is that just like how you sell a manual lock, the thing is that it would be easier if I had diagrams. I actually do have diagrams.
And that's fine.
But it's attached to the rear frame of your bike. And the thing is that it has a linear actuator that goes through the rear spokes of your bike. And so that linear actuator is by the controlled by the near field communication chip. So it's actually, you just install it once, the product on the rear frame, and the thing is that it will work perfectly as you go across. So it's just a one-time installation that you can do at home, and then it works for forever.
Okay, no, that sounds great. Like what you described sounds great. I guess I was just going to say that installation process is something you're going to want to consider. And then just another suggestion is, I know depending on the value of your bike, maybe I don't know if at $400 people consider it, but you might want to consider selling 2 systems for front and rear in case that comes up.
Yours sounds a very novel, new kind of a product, and it is a consumer oriented